Ali, 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 yeah. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7.
Islam, 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 Moorish America, want to rise upon the 7 within the circle of justice, mercy, love, and right, and give all praises to the great God, our Father God, Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that our Holy Prophet brought to make us a nation. But at this time, we want to call forth our beloved Consul General of the Territory of Texas, Dr. Marvin Nathaniel Edwards Bey, that he may open up our hearts and minds as we open up the way. Islam.
Islam. Gratitude. Yes, I'm Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, Texas Territory. Rising, giving all praise to the great God Allah, highest honor to his prophet, and honor to everything that is Moorish. Our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, Holy Quran, Book of Ali, 101s, 102s, exhuming of a nation, all of our divine revelations. Give honors to our Act 1 and all of our officials. And this class, our E.A.R.S class, as well as our host, Dr. Pseudo-HIEROGLYPHS, and all of our scribes. Give you honors. And I will be opening the meeting according to law. And I will begin. Ya Allah emnuheru meku neteru. Teperu. Ya Allah heru. Ya Allah ma'at her kuti. Ya Allah awajet de juti. Ya Allah pertem sutek pertem heru. Ya Allah bamaduti. El hejistre up to Ali. Amen. Hallelujah. 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 In transliteration, O Allah, the Father of the universe. O Allah, the Father of love. O Allah, the Spirit of truth. O Allah, the Spirit of freedom. O Allah, the Spirit of justice. Oh Allah, you are my protector. Oh Allah, you are my guide. Oh Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day. Oh Allah, through your holy prophet. Oh Allah, true Ali. Amen. Holy Issa, Holy Issa, Holy Issa. And now I'll be reading our divine constitution of Moorish America. Salvation, our God, unity. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs, if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. The bylaws. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was born in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters, you must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, founding father and frame of the divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. Now that this meeting has been opened according to law, I will hand this meeting over to the next scribe that will be reading our our chapter of the week. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Gratitude. This is Dr. Hatshepsut Tutankhamun Bey, National Grand Secretary of State. First of all, I want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving honor to our Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our scribes online, our family online, giving honor to Act 1, and giving honor to our host instructor, our National Assistant Grand Sheik of Moorish America, Dr. Shedwa Menti El Mohedjed Shepsuel, giving honor to our class this morning. Chapter 66, Holy Instructions from the Prophet, Misery. Feeble and insufficient as thou art, O man, in good, frail and inconstant as thou art in pleasure, yet there is a thing in which thou art strong and unshaken. Its name is misery. It is the character of thy being, the prerogative of thy nature. In thy breast alone it resideth. Without thee there is nothing of it. And behold, what is its source but thine own passions? He who gave thee these gave thee also reason to subdue them. Exert it, and thou shalt trample them under thy feet. Thine entrance into the world, is it not shameful? Thy destruction, is it not glorious? Lo, men adorn the instruments of death with gold and gems, and wear them above their garments. He who begetteth a man hideth his face, but he who killeth 1,000 is honored. Know thou, notwithstanding, that in this is error. Custom cannot alter the nature of truth, neither can the opinion of man destroy justice. The glory and the shame are misplaced. There is but one way for a man to be produced. There are 1,000 by which he may be destroyed. There is no praise or honor to him who giveth being to another, but triumphs and empire are the rewards of murder. Yet he who hath many children hath as many blessings, and he who hath taken away the life of another shall not enjoy his own. While the savage curseth the birth of his son and blesseth the death of his father, doth he not call himself a monster? The greatest of all human ills is sorrow. Too much of this thou art born unto. Add not unto it by thine own perverseness. Grief is natural to thee, and is always about thee. Pleasure is a stranger, and visiteth thee by times. Use well thy reason, and sorrow shall be cast behind thee. Be prudent, and the visits of joy shall remain long with thee. Every part of thy frame is capable of sorrow, but few and narrow are the paths that lead to delight. Pleasures can be admitted only simply, but pains rush in 1,000 at a time. As the blaze of straw fadeth as soon as it is kindled, so passeth away the brightness of joy, and thou knowest not what became of it. Sorrow is frequent, pleasure is rare. Pain cometh of itself. Delight must be purchased. Grief is unmixed, but joy wanteth not its alloy of bitterness. As the sound of health is less perceived than the lightest malady, so the highest joy touches us less deep than the smallest sorrow. We are in love with anguish. We often fly from pleasure. When we purchase it, costeth it not more than it is worth. Reflection is the business of man. A sense of his state is his first duty. But who remembereth himself a boy? Is it not in mercy then that sorrow is allotted unto us? Man foreseeth the evil that is to come. He remembereth it when it is past. He considereth not that the thought of affliction woundeth deeper than the affliction itself. Think not of thy pain, but when it is upon thee, and thou shalt avoid what most hurt thee. He who weepeth before he needeth, weepeth more than he needeth. And why? But that he loveth weeping. The stag weepeth not till a spear is lifted against him, nor do the tears of the beaver fall till the hound is ready to seize him. Man anticipateth death by the apprehension of it, and the fear is greater misery than the event itself. Be always prepared to give an account of thine action, and the best death is that which is least premeditated. Islam, Islam, Islam. At this time, we want to turn the meeting back into the hands of our host instructor, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Shadow Amenti El Mohedjed Shapsuel. Islam?
Islamism, goddess and queen, and scribes, we give honors to you and our beloved brother Marvin Edwards Bey for opening up the way. Islam, Islam, Islam. Having already risen, we continue to rise in ascension, giving praises to the great God Allah and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Again, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere. And therefore, honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and Bylaws, again, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome you to another Egyptian ADEPTUS Research Sultanate session. I'm your host instructor, Dr. Shahid Imani Mohadi Shabazz. My ancient committee and high name being the same as Dr. Shedawamenti El Muhajjed Shepsuel. We have a grand drawing to bring on the manifest this morning, but without further ado or delay, what we always do is we like to open up the way with our book of fire. And we're going to actually start in this particular measure with page 373. Get our scribes to come forth. Islam, grand man. And you can start, Brother Bati Bey, at 373. And you can go over to, because it ain't a whole lot to be read here. You can go to 376 and then stop above the 7 degrees of self-mastery in the divine ministry.
Islam.
And we will have our next scribe,
Islam,
Grand National Secretary of the State. You can go from there, 376 to 7 degrees of self-mastery, over to 378 above Moors in prostration. Islamism. And we will actually have our brother Marvin Epplesbay go from Moors in prostration 378 to 380, and that's you can stop above Hebrew or Jew, brother.
Gratitude.
Islam. All right.
Islam. This is Dr. Bati Bey. First, I'd like to rise and give our man of praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government, our royal council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, our swift angels, muftis, citizens alike, honors to all the Moors that are here in attendance, all the scribes on our panel, and our host, Dr. Shedawamenti El Muhajjed Shebazz. And with that, I will begin. History of the Moorish religion. Islamism, the first religious creed on earth. Noble Drew Ali taught the Moorish Americans, the fallen sons and daughters of Africa have borrowed a faith from foreign lands, and the God they serve is not their own. This makes them a beggar people, and the beggar people can never produce the best in themselves. Prior to the advent of Noble Drew Ali, the so-called Negroes, blacks, colored people, NBCs assumed the church, assumed the church and Christianity, which had been forced upon them during the time of slavery, was their own religion. Which had been forced upon them during the time of slavery, was their own religion. With this faith came the pale-skinned, blue-eyed Lord and Savior Yehoshua Christ, a Western name for Yehoshua. They were correct. From the slave perspective of NBC, these religious tenets did in fact belong to slaves for slaves and about the earthly salvation of slaves. This is to say, at best, when any slave has been saved, redeemed, or reached salvation, he or she will still be officially a NBC slave. A saved slave, albeit recognized as a good Christian, is still just a slave. The truth is, one must first be free before they can enter the gates of heaven. Bear in mind, freedom is not attained through the service of another man's God, and exactly what the church or Christianity has freed their NBCs to be an autonomous nation of people. This is why Noble Drew Ali taught the Moorish about their own religious creed, their own God, and the only true heaven. Every nation has its inherent religion, but they have first come to realization they are indeed a nation. Question 17, what is our religion? Islamism. Question 18, is that a new or is that an old-time religion? Old-time religion. In 1865, when the U.S. slavery was abolished, the ex-slaves were without the religion of their forefathers, and subsequently being without their own religion, they blindly continued to serve the gods of their former slave masters. The abolishment of the institution of slavery in no way replaced the 2/5 nationality and divine creed denationalized from the Africans, which left them as only 3/5 of all persons. The church and Christianity, having been forced upon them during the century of captivity, was the only system of religion they knew. Unfortunately, it is a historical fact the religion of any slave government was never constituted with powers to free its slaves. Now, more than 145 years later, not one of the 1 million plus NBCs of the cloth, with very few members of their congregation, question why they will never be free while under the same government that enslaved them, especially as they have faithfully served another man's God. Islamism, as the world's first religious creed, was pronounced Hotep. Hotep is the holistic science or study of peace. Hotep, translated into the Arabic language as Islam. Islam became the Arabian name of the old-time religion, as it was perfected for Arabians by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Surah 5:3. He chose Islam from the African ancient monotheistic sciences to the people of Havilah, Arabia, because they had strayed away from this straight way to Allah, as taught by his African forefathers. In fact, Muhammad was a direct descendant of Hagar, the Egyptian goddess, which mothered Ishmael, first true son of Abraham. Readers must bring to mind the roots of Hotep began millenniums before Kemet became the center of the world's greatest teachings and civilization. The name Kemet translates to Kingdom of God, Lord of the Gods, or God of Gods, which modern man calls Egypt. They refer to the creator as Olodumare, or Necher. This translation is the true foundation for the Islamic fundamental. There is no God but Allah, and Allah is the Father of the universe, as brought to the Moorish Americans by Noble Drew Ali. Angels are true beings. The station of an angel is a status held in harmony with its original creative destiny. They are celestial thoughts of the great God and are often manifested in the flesh filled with melanin. An angel is the highest station of man expressing the will of divinity. Commission adepts that were sent to various nations in need of realignment with the oneness of the great God were called angels. They were Muslims who could only obey the will of the great God. The most noted angelic station of these Africans were entitled Gabriel and Michael. Angels bring, defend, and teach messages to prophets that are necessary to redeem their nation. The messages were always about Hotep or Islamism, and the messengers were always olive-skinned brothers or sisters called angels. Islam, the first religious creed, the world's first religious creed. Islam. Islamism. The numbers. The true mastery system of Egypt, which Noble Drew Ali, an Egyptian adept master, called Islamism, is founded upon the sciences of numbers. Men comprehend the dynamics and origin of infinity by understanding numbers. The equation science of numbers gives rise to all seen and unseen worlds. Geometry, algebra, and arithmetic are the thrones for astronomy, medicine, architecture, calendars, arts, religion, creation, civilization, order of the universe, and harmonies of life. All are contingent upon numbers. The mystery system of Egypt acquires its strength from 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. These are the strong numbers because they cannot be divided evenly, unlike 2, 4, 6, and 8. Here are a few examples of the creative powers of those positive numbers. The 1, original, creator, causeless cause, rootless root. The 3, there are always 3 steps on the master's carpet. The triune Allah, wisdom, will, and love, Egyptian, initiation, illumination and perfection. Yehoshua, belief, faith, and fruition. Juali, member, sheik, and adept. Mastery, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Freemasonry, apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Christianity, Islam's natural enemy, is structured in the illusions of the 3-step Egyptian mastery system. Its European churches assert the Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. This God has only one begotten Son named Yehoshua, who was created in Rome's Vatican with pure European features. These are just too many gods to serve. This man-made threesome is colloquially known as the white man. They are made in the likeness and image of European interests. Freemasonry, the masterful liberal arts degree of Christian Science, and the chief protector of the Christian creed, also functions upon a semblance of Egyptians' initiation, illumination, and perfection. The 3 degrees in all of Freemasonry is under the auspices of apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. See Freemasonry. Here in the Night Lodge, Masons secretly don the ancient Moorish diadem, the fez, that Muslims men have worn openly and freely for thousands of years. The 5 highest principles: love, true peace, freedom, justice. Senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Organs: head, right arm, right leg, left leg. Organs: head, right arm, right leg, left arm. Elements: ethereal, fire, water, air, and land. Ruling planets: Venus, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. North Star: 5 pentagrams, 72 degrees, each equal 360 degrees. The 7 ancient Chumedian Egyptian mystery system. First degree, Pastophorus, medicine and sciences. Second degree, necrosis, geometric energy, shape, structures, and designs. Third degree, melanophorus, science of non-polarized energies, e.g. time, finite durations between life and death. Fourth degree, Christophorus, inherent laws of growth, relativity from light and sound, e.g. vegetation, music, colors, crystals, and metals. Fifth degree, Balahite, science of nature and alchemic laws, logic, and the philosophy of transmutation and realization of simplicity from the most complex. Sixth degree, Astronomus, the manipulation of the cosmic powers in harmony with the human body and other living things. The Polaris interaction balance with the body and the galaxies. The study of stimulative or sedative ethers. Seventh degree, Propheta, the wisdom of God in man, the right of Emmanuel, adept and prophethood, conquest of self, God realization to Christ. These are 7 degrees of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. The 7 represents the totality of divine creation. The ancient ones developed the curriculum for their 7 degrees from the completed circle of creation. There were 7 days in a circle, which totals everything made. Each day marked the completion of an ethereal life form from the Alpha to the Omega. There are 7 days in a year. They are Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There are 7 creative spirits with the 7 ethereal planes. Excuse me. The 7 infinite thoughts of Allah, which created everything that ever was, is, or ever more to be. The ancient Hebrew calls these Elohim. The Adepts call them the 7 eyes of Allah. Man calls these ether planes the planes of protoplast, earth, plant, beast, man, angel, and cherubim. More show the Quran 11:19-38. There are 7 chakras, seals within the human body. These chakras are fixed from the base of the spine upright through the heart of the mind. Yehoshua said man couldn't resurrect until the fix is solved. More show the Quran 17-37. The ancient Siddhas gurus call these the astral body of light. Each must be lightened with wisdom. See third eye. These are also 7 sounds. There are also 7 sounds on the master music scale. All the audibles heard by the ear of man are the summation of these sounds. 7 colors in the spectrum. There constitute everything seen by human eyes. Without these colors, the human sentinels are useless. 7 senses for the conscious of man. 5 below the eyebrows, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And 2 above the eyebrows, intuition and telepathy. 7 degrees in the adept chambers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, AC of the MST of A, third heaven, question 56. The degrees of high consciousness in Drew Ali's third heaven are identical to the ancient Egyptian mystery system developed by the African gods to be formed in flesh. This origin is held by the old Hebrews as the story of Adam and Eve. Noble Drew Ali brought these degrees of God attainment in the missing 18 years of Yehoshua's life omitted from the Bible. The lessons are found in his life works and teachings of Yehoshua by Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. See index. Islam. Now turn this meeting over to Dr. Inception.
Islam. Much gratitude to Dr. Bati Bey for his portion of the reading. This is Dr. Hatshepsut Tutankhamun Bey, having already risen, given praise and honor where due. 7 degrees of self-mastery to the divine ministry. First degree, sincerity, chapter 14. Second degree, justice, chapter 15. Third degree, faith, chapter 16. Fourth degree, philanthropy, chapter 17. Fifth degree, heroism, chapter 18. 6th degree, love divine, chapter 19. 7th degree, ministry of death, divine ministry, chapter 20 through 21, prophethood. We cannot omit the Aquarian age as the 7th of time, known and prophesied by the ancient Moorish scientists, which would follow the 2,000-year Piscean age. The Piscean age, symbolized by the sign of the fish, represents the period when man's consciousness would travel by seas and waterways. The number for Piscean age was 6. The number for the Aquarian age is 7, and it represents the time when man's consciousness would travel by air and other ethereal planes. It would do well to note that the true Roman Catholic Mass is based upon 7 sacraments: baptism, reconciliation, Eucharist, confirmation, marriage, ordination, and unction, anointing of the sick. But as Christian splinter groups, example given Protestants, Lutherans, Methodists, etc., went back to the 6th, the body of Christ, blood and wine. The original 7 degrees are the ancient god-man Ish and goddess Isha, training lessons of the ancient Moorish in African holistic civilizations. These original his and her lessons of self-mastery, which all initiates upon completion of these holy instructions, were called gods and goddesses. See Adam and Eve. Those who titled themselves as white gods without these courses in divinity are impostors and Moorish imitators. The Moorish are the true founders of Islam, Hotep, Islamism. Note, all things created and governed by Allah, the One, derived by the 3, wisdom, will, and love, directed by the holy breath, of the 5 principles of action: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all rest upon the 7. When man is fully conscious of himself, then he and his creator are in fact one. The deification of man now brings us from 1 through the 3, 5, and 7 to the 9. The 9 is reentry. 9 is the triune times 3. According to ancient science, the 9 is symbolic of reentry. The 9 is the conscious rebirth of the God-man, when the God-man of truth attains unto himself, and Allah is all. The 9 is the last whole number before new life, life everlasting. 9 is man leaving the perpetual realms of Y to enter his natural state, divine infinity. This numerically marks man's final use for the illusions of time, space, and calculations. The number 9 and the goddess. The woman also symbolizes the life-encompassing power of 9. She sits upon the holy throne of goddess when touched by a god. From this exalted station in 9 months, the goddess alone can create and build a temple for Allah without the sound of the hammer or use of a nail. The temple is called Man. Man means thinker. In Freemasonry, the Moorish goddess is called the widow. This is because Masons are those disguised as the 3 ruffians that have knocked her African god Hiram in the head, leaving him civilly dead. See Freemasonry. Today, at best, this goddess of the Nile, 9, being alone without her husband, man, or God, is the only quote-unquote widow among the nations of the earth. In the United States and its territories, the new African widow is colloquially spoken of as the single mom, or my baby's mama, or self-proclaimed BITCH. See single moms. Nevertheless, this widow is another Western misnomer, because man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah, and while Allah lives, man cannot die. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth this human seed into the soil of soul. He became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Thus, there can be no widow because Allah is the husbandman. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 1. No other woman on planet Mud divinely inherits the title of goddess, save the queens from Africa. The only reason, quote-unquote, BITCH is applied to her in the USA is because in science, bitch is an unprotected female of any species. Her God-man has been displaced and has no current jurisdiction over her or their children. The 9, being triune times 3, is further illustrated by the 3 stages times 3 degrees of the perfection of man. The adapt deification of man. Allah equals wisdom plus will plus love. Prophet equals initiation plus illumination plus perfection. Man equals belief plus faith plus fruition. Through these 3 steps, times 3 degrees, the ancient ones perfected the mystery system of Egypt. It was so perfectly developed until it became known as the only straight pathway of perfection. Example given: salvation, redemption, or religion. It is the holistic philosophy of these sciences which became the way of life for the ancient Moors over 25,000 years ago. This became the first religious creed that was taught in degrees to initiates over a period of 2 to 3 years, exoteric, or 12 to 18 years, esoteric. Those who were initiated by circumcision and completed the first level of self-mastery received the title of sheikh or adept. Graduates of the higher degrees received the titles of God, Prophet, Christ, Messiah, and their life's work was called divine ministry. Moses, Abraham, Boaz, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, Joseph, John, and Yehoshua, Issa, all received their prophethood from the same Egyptian mystery system. Some, example given, Melchizedek and Yehoshua, were of virgin birth of the adepts and received the highest God degree called Christum. All prophets and Christ were distinguished with their own symbol of perfected man. Moses received the staff, David the star, Yehoshua the circled 7, and Noble Drew Ali the circled scimitar and star. Each part of a symbol represented a degree of perfection. The logos is the perfect word. The circle is the perfect symbol. And 7 is the perfect number. Chapter 13, ayahs 2 through 5. This is the full lotus of God in man, also taught by the Siddha Guru Masters. The Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought the Egyptian mystery system in the highest degree ever known to man and bestowed it upon his people, the Moorish Americans. For the first time in 3 ages, 6,000 years, have these lessons been given to an entire nation of people by their ancient forefathers. He divinely instructed the Moorish Americans, there is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers. Moorish Holy Quran 47:11. Being their prophet, his greatest task is to start them to thinking. This ancient system is the old-time religion called Islamism, questions 17 through 18. It is not in conflict with the perfecting of your religion in the great Quran of Muhammad, as brought to his sinful polytheistic people of Mecca, Arabia. In fact, Islamism is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. Moorish Holy Quran 45:1. Islam is a perfected segment of Hotep, parentheses, Islamism. This is the old-time religion which Christians sing for. The Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites from the lands of Canaan and the founders of the holy city of Mecca, Moorish Holy Quran 45:2, are the true Sunni Muslims. The word Sunni means original, and Muslims are those who submit their will to the will of the great God Allah. The Moorish are also the founders of the first religious creed, Islamism, historically known as the 3 steps on the master's carpet, parentheses, the ancient Kemethian mystery system. These degrees, once placed upon the 3-step ladder of salvation, belief, faith, and fruition, would raise the consciousness of the initiate to the wisdom of self, the higher self. Through the knowledge of the lower self, the illusions of the world, which are concerned with time, one would become a mastermind, adept with the grace of God Allah. This true education is the definition of the word saved, which is the root of salvation. Anyone who claims to be saved and is not free with these true knowledge of the selves is in the feigned redemption of Maya. They are still slaves to sin. Again, written upon the sacred temples and walls of the ancient pyramids are the words SULTANATE, man, know thyself. The ultimate goals of the Egyptian mystery system and Moorish science, Islamism, are the deification of man. This is the most misunderstood lesson in the Moorish American curriculum. Yet, the value of all their virtues, standards, and principles rests squarely upon mastering this first degree. Drew Ali was the first to bring the ancient principle of SULTANATE to them, declaring in the voice of their forefathers to first know thyself and thy father, God Allah. Prophet Yehoshua, born in Bethlehem of Judah in the house of David, became an Egyptian adept Christ during the 18-year period of his life not found in the Bible. The main reason he was so misunderstood was because he was born during the Piscean age, but his life works and teachings were the spiritual bridge from man to Allah. It would be 2,000 years before the human family would realize what he has done. All men must do. This is also the reason Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali could not bring a new religion. He brought the ancient science of Islam, Islamism, as it was also revealed to him in Egypt. The same revelations given to the Holy Prophet Muhammad by the angel Jibril in Arabia. Drew Ali simply returned again to the Moorish that which is theirs through inheritance and divine guidance. Moorish Americans often refer to these sacred teachings as the 7 great wonders and mysteries. Even in congregational prayer, they stand with eyes open, raised arms with 5 fingers extended on the left hand and 2 fingers on the right side. Leveled at the eyes, a Moor's diadem head, then becomes the world beyond the circle of the sun. 22. This is the prayer stand of all Moorish initiates. All 10 fingers extended with feet at a 45-degree angle is the prayer stance of the adept. Now, at this time, we want to turn the meeting into the hands of our Consul General of Texas, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey. Islam?
Islam and gratitude, National Grand Secretary of State. And yes, I'm Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, praise none and self and giver. And I'll continue with the reading. Moors in prostration, yes, / no. But do Moors prostrate? Yes. The ancient ones were the first men to prostrate in submissive prayer, communication to the great God. This was his acknowledgement to the universal order. He was nothing like his God self while in human form. Originally, man in his shameful state would submit laying horizontal to the earth with arms and hands outstretched above his head. Later, they would kneel, bowing completely from the waist, placing their forehead into the pyramid formed by their palms down hands. Prostration was the first method of prayer because it included both physical submission and meditation. The Moorish founders of the first religious creed developed it. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 48, verse 6. Prostration was the only form of prayer used by Noah, Ham, Abraham, Moses, Yehoshua, and all Egyptian adepts. Prophet Muhammad later reintroduced it to the Islamic world. But even when Moors were Hebrew, they prostrated. Prostration also distinguished Muslims who submit their will to Allah from those serving lesser gods. However, Moors do not prostrate when in enemy environment or danger. For example, under any unstable form of Christian rulership. The Moorish adept, whether standing or on bended knees, is a Muslim first. This means that his will has been consciously submitted to the will of his divine Father, Allah. To the adept, prostration takes place first in the heart, and the east is there also. The last prophet in these days taught, where is the nearest place we can meet a hymn? In the heart. Question number 4. Conscious Muslims do not prostrate when in the enemy camps of Allah. Quran, Surah 4, ayats 101 to 104. This holds especially true for the Moorish hostages being constitutionally held by the Reconstruction Amendments of the United States. This is to say, any form of government that supports the enslavement of the Moorish by the fetters of Negro, blacks, and colored is an enemy of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Enemies are to be watched until it's safe to pray. Until such time the Moorish are their own government, on their own land, sheltered by their own security, we will stand to pray while we watch our enemy. The European Creed, Christianity, via the Roman Catholic order, is the European religious creed. Noble Drew Ali said, the foundation of Christianity began in Rome. The Roman nations founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth was seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 46, verse 1. By its nature of assured destruction, the cross became the symbol of Christianity. The cross is a man-made instrument of death. When the pathways of two or more moving things cross is where chaos, death, suffering are most certain. The symbol for Catholicism, worn by the Pope, is the double cross, and the highest number for all of Christendom is the 6. There is no redemption for the children of Africa under the cross. According to other Bible, Rome used the cross to crucify Yehoshua and many thousands of his national brethren. Today's cross is the electric chair, lethal injections, and the serving of gods outside of self. The cross has been legally used by modern Roman executioners on declared convicts and to mark their graves after they legalized murder. For those who do not want Yehoshua to bear the cross alone and can't wait to meet their maker, need only contact their state authority. Perhaps 2,000 years from now, believers in the Roman death penalty will wear a replica of an electric chair or syringe around their neck as a sign of their God. What? Another 2,000 years of the same old soup warmed over? Surely earth is not heaven, will pass away. This is not to speak negatively about Europeans' Christianity. It must be remembered the church and Christianity was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. Most Holy Quran 48, verse 7. Bottom line is, the European creed was, is, and never can be of any benefit to the descendants of Africans. Islamism in many sciences. Islamism is many sciences. Symbols are the embodiment of a multiplicity of thoughts compiled into a single expression. Symbols are man-made emblems that personify the characteristics of a state, condition, era, formulas, etc., which are immaterial. Symbols usually interpret the purpose or use of many things while also showing both its magnitude and limitations. People are accustomed to symbols being around them every day. Most symbols are easily recognized. For example, the skull and cross bones represent poison or death. The cross represents the church or Christianity. The red circled slash represents don't or not allowed. The circled bell represents telephone. The circled blue represents handicap or wheelchair. Symbols have unnumbered meanings and are used to represent the business of man, from highway signs to national flags and from industries to space explorations. But it is the symbols of understanding which most people do not identify nor use effectively. Symbols of understanding are often referred to as architect tools. They are not as commonly known as their kindred symbols of astronomy and astrology. The glory from the breast of divine geometry, astronomy, astrology, and architecture. Religion, a science of the Moorish. The key to knowing the sciences of the above three sacred schools rests in knowledge of their history. Noble Drawley said, "What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction." No one is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great creator, Allah himself. Go back to your ancient forefathers' state of mind and accomplish what you will. The Holy Prophet further added, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Hence, we, the Moorish, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. It will also be well to point out, for the clarity of our signs and symbols subject matter, Noble Drew Ali was prepared by the great God to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, to teach the old-time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men. To know the trinity of symbols aforementioned is to define the science of civilizing used by the ancient ones, which Noble Drew Ali called Islamism. Then perhaps the reader will understand why the Europeans' only way to conquer the Moors was to knock them in the head, rendering him unconscious. See Masonry's Hiram Abib. Islamism, the scientific use of signs, symbols, and tools, was the creed of the ancient Moors. It was applied and lived. Yes, it was applied and lived thousands of years before the advent of Prophet Muhammad, who gave it the perfected name Islam, peace. See Seal of the Prophets. The Europeans classified the Moorish mind as a galactic weapon. When a Moor was functioning on all points, thinking, he was considered armed and dangerous. In order to disarm them as a people of love, truth, and peace, they had to be disallowed to think, reason, and will, or to understand. Every Moorish child had to become an idiom. A Muslim is one who submits his will to the will of the great God. All ancient Moors were Muslims, and they lived Islam by its components. Islamism as the study of inner peace, the science of universal harmonies. The first signs and symbols were designed and used by the ancient Moabites. Then so-called modern man, in his assuming the title of God, describes the Moorish ancient way of life as paganistic and heathenism. However, upon investigation, we can see no civilization existed unless they used some aspect of this modern European Hebrew version of this paganistic idol-worshipping stew. Astronomy is a part of Islam. Their movements and their systems, the ancient ones reverenced the universal order and applied this geometric system to their society. Astronomy was a dutiful way of life for Moors, so much so it was added as a natural part of their holistic government. It was as natural as drinking water. In fact, in his chapter on religion, Noble Drew Ali reveals, and in the law's universal divine order, he hath ordained as the rule of life. So kindly hath he united the duty to thy nature, that obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself. Most Holy Quran, chapter 35, verse 21. Islamism is navigation. From astronomy, the Moors acquired the omnipotent guidelines to charter courses across land, sea, sky, and universe. They were able to map the mental growth of the soul, which men later called enlightenment, by denoting its actions as of thinking, reasoning, willing, and understanding. They developed systems of navigation shortly after the fall. It became obvious to man as he was descending from his God state, he must now pre-measure and mark his travels unless he would be lost into perpetual finite realm of why. Navigation is simply carnal man's way of traveling by the senses, and guidance is the divine pathway of the gods. Druali said, man, spirit man, travels from the center to the outer bounds of life. But the consciousness of man feels free. Okay. But the consciousness of man feels from the infinite to finite as he did. Okay, I would say, but the consciousness of man fell from the infinite to the finite as he descended slower into a human state. This is when foolish man became lost and had to devise north, east, south, and west as directional tools to mark his earthbound travels. In truth, the center of man is in the heart of man. This is where he must inwardly find his God state. But that is too simple and right. So what does man do to find himself, God? Through rituals and forms, they face places on earth in the north, east, south, west that he himself has previously marked to offer prayers to a God that he declared is omnipresent and everywhere at once. Silly human, if the great God is truly everywhere, why go anywhere outside of self to offer reverence? Find coordinates between planets, the timetable of manifest destiny, and man with other forms of life. These coordinates are the spiritual or astral bonds with design orbital effects upon other living cycles, past, present, and future. Time elements are divided into thought increments of hours, days, years, and ages. These too are often divided into the celestial governments of 12 houses called zodiac. These houses are life cycles. Still, these houses are preceded by the suffix zo, which implies animal kingdoms, for example, zoo. The word zodiac means world of the little animals because each of the 12 houses is represented by a symbol reflective of the characteristics of their special house. The ancient Moors were able to reason early in the life of man. All life evolves in cycles of fruition. True astrology is the living of manifest destiny and the consciousness of man's deific life. Man was created perfect. He came from a perfect source. He, therefore, is a perfect being, and to perfection he must return. This is the true purpose for the zodiac. Who would know this better than the ancient Canaanites? They later inhabited Mathian kingdoms in the Upper Nile, whom first designed the zodiac as a celestial calendar to measure their cycles of growth. Mingste, an wise wise man from China, once told Yehoshua, all things are thought, all life is thought activity. The multitudes of beings are but phases of the one great thought made manifest. Lo, the great God is thought, and thought is the great God. Architecture is Islamism. A conscious Moor is an architect because his creator has the master plan. Fruit never falls far from his tree. The ancient ones were masters of designing large living structures. They were built from the high science upon itself. They were built from the high essence of the earth to house the oracles personifying the oneness of God and man. These living structures are the original computers built geometrically perfect with the principles of higher character of man, using only the power of using only the power of thought. Some of these structures are the ancient mounds, pyramids, and pagodas, etc. The ancient Muslims built these structures to this day, and these structures still stand in the Americas, Africa, and China. They live, made in the image and of the character of man to his creator. None of these structures were built with a hammer's sound. Like the 9-month making of a God-man, the woman do not use hammer and nails. Yet, she can develop a God by following the divine design of the master architect. Islamism is truly the work done when the will of man is in harmony with the will of his creator, being himself the God that he is. I believe that's where I'm supposed to end. Islamism, gratitude, peace and love.
In Islamism, gratitude, scribe. We give honors to you for that grand read, and praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. We give honors to all of the scribes for laying that foundation for what it is that we had to bring forth. Indeed, a powerful drawing, and our drawing here is dealing with again the book of the universe, or the book of creation, and what we are going into. And this is pretty much an open discussion because we want to give our family some insight, because we've been talking about, the metaphysical aspects. We showed improved, over the course of a few weeks, that for one, we already know that these signs and symbols, which is in certain cases considered rock arts, and some of the rock art that they are trying to proclaim is letters or not letters. We've seen through various different sources from various different cultures, so to speak. When we get into the invention and the creation, of these charts that they would consider alphabet charts, out of all of them, none or neither one was created by the ancient Egyptians. The only thing that can be created or credited to be created by them are the symbols themselves. And so some people would try to put one over on you because they are the creators of the symbols. And then they see these charts that have been created by those who are known as, we call them Hebrews or Israelites. Again, if in fact they were the ones that created these special things, that's a whole nother measure. And it wasn't somebody in the more modern time attributing these things to them, but we can see certain things. So, okay, even if that was the case, that's not the ancient Egyptian creation, that's the Hebrews. Are we seen dealing with Ibn Washia, from the aspect of him being prior to Champollion? All of these books, despite them having, their creation of charts, would tell you that this was not the way of the ancient Egyptians. So that's another thing. So we already know if these are people that had sources and they were actually connected to the ancient Kemites, then why would we take the word of Champollion over all of these different people? Because he created his chart. And he didn't even do anything unique because it was already done by those who came before him. Yeah, that's a hard truth for a lot of our people to accept. All you got to do is accept what Champollion did in this context. He created a pseudo-hieroglyphic alphabetical chart. He applied Greek and Demotic, to these special demonstrations and came up with his own invention. That's it. That's what it is. We can acknowledge that. We ain't denying that he didn't come up with his own invention in a chart. He used ancient symbols, but because he used ancient symbols to create that chart doesn't make him the sole creator, of deciphering, something. Because no, what he so-called decipher didn't even come from what the ancient Egyptians had per se directly, because it came from what the Ptolemies had demonstrated. They had added, 7,000 different signs, in there. So, them 700 signs that the ancient Egyptians definitely probably most likely got lost in the sauce, so to speak. If you mix 7,000 with 700, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of, it's going to be some grand amalgamation going on in there. But my main thing is that you got to remember the Rosetta Stone didn't exist during the time of ancient Egypt. It was created by the Ptolemies people. That there should kill the whole argument. We say this all the time. You understand? A lot of people don't want to accept that, but that's the truth. So we're going to give you the truth. Also the Pele-Obelisk, their form, of one of the phallic symbols of ancient Kemet was also a Ptolemaic. And these are the two relics. Champollion didn't even have the Rosetta Stone physically in front of him when he so-called went into his decipherment of METU. And we found that even on the Rosetta Stone, that there are pseudo-hieroglyphs on there. Some of them are meaningless. But you would notice right here, and when I say meaningless, I'm talking about meaningless in the aspects of them just creating them. They was just decor that was placed on the rock. Decor. Just like I would take some wallpaper and it got Egyptian symbols on it. I put it on my wall. But, those symbols look good, and the way they put together, they really have no meaning. They just decor. They're just decoration. And so that's how they tried to trick the people. And then they put, some expressions of they look Greek, or they Greek mix in there with Cleopatra and Ptolemy. We even have the original documents, people. When they telling you about the creation of the Rosetta Stone, we took our people into that as well. We can go on and on and on. The jig is up, people. Now, what I would like to say for those who listen to our elders that teach based upon what Champollion created, we do not hold them accountable for what they have taught based upon the information they have before them, because that's all they had to go off of. So we give honors to our brother Ashwar Kwesi for the work that he done in his interpretation. But he knows, because he said it himself, that the METU and its decipherment has not been what it is. He made that statement. There are others who have alluded to these things that I'm talking about now, but they have not come all the way out and straight up came at it hardcore like I'm coming at it. I'm the one that's doing that. I'm the one that bear the burden. Me and my scribes right here. We are bearing the burden of being ridiculed and attacked because a lot of our people want to go and keep pushing the narrative of what the Europeans said. So we'll take all of that right there, to correct this information, if that's what it takes. And we definitely working on the books. We showed that to you. And mashallah, we'll be having these things wrapped up sooner than later. But yeah, we want to give honors to all of these brothers that came before us. I want to say that, because a lot of people say, so you trying to tell me these brothers were wrong? It's just like our parents. Look at it like this, family. Most of us, if we came up in a house and our people was taught Christianity, and that's all they knew was Christianity, then quite naturally, okay, that's my mother's faith, my grandmother. Most people feel indifferent when it comes to having the truth and being able to tell the truth, because they people They feel like they're going to be ridiculed, outcast, or whatever the case may be. But there are those who become somewhat like a black sheep, you know, and I'm using that for a lack of better word, the term, because we ain't talking about a dead sheep, but not, we're talking about those who become seers. And it's for them to break that generational curse, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So most of the time, it's one chosen. And I personally feel this is a gift of the ancestors and a gift of the great God to allow one, whether or not, whether they know it, to come up out of their lineage to correct what has been distorted. You know, and I feel that this is in every family amongst our people. Someone rises up to correct, you know, the errors of what we've been taught. Love my grandmother, love my grandfather, love my mother, love my father. You understand? But they don't have the work that I have. That ain't got nothing to do with it. Was me that was put here in this era time to correct what had been taught to us. Just like my scribes right here. It was them, for them to come forth and correct what had been incorrectly taught us. And it's you, those who are listening within the sound of my voice, who hear what's being said. It's your duty to correct what has been incorrect. We have to stop, you know, all this this slave expression of empathy, you know, whereas we are willing to keep perpetuating the lies. All just like Christianity when they push Christmas. You know, we're going to keep pushing it and use the excuse, oh, this is just because we want to make the kids happy. Kids, young goats, you mean? So why don't you have your own traditions? Why don't you understand the true custom from whence the European come up with that stuff and created all this stuff? You know, and then utilize what the ancestors demonstrated, you know, for what it was demonstrated for. Why don't you do that? You know, and give that to your youngins. Give that to your seeds if you want to give them gifts, you know. But the greatest gift that you can give is the gift of understanding. So nevertheless, like I'm saying, family, I want to give honors to all of those who came to do the work, but they don't have the work that we call to do. We are here to uproot truth and falsehood strangely mixed. You understand? And those who are not able to come forth and do what we doing now, we doing it, and we don't care who don't like it. We don't care who get offended by it because they want to deal with what Champollion taught. You know, and we're not against you. We're not your enemy, but we ain't playing with you when it comes with this truth right here. So if you take offense to this information, that's something that you have to work with. We don't say that to be mean and unjust. We saying that because we don't have time to play. You know, we ain't got time to be sugarcoating and tiptoeing through no tulips to appease to somebody that don't want to learn. The times of going back and forth with our people over this stuff is over with. It's straight teaching now, henceforth. And if it offend you, well, you already know what a dough is. You know, but one thing about it, you can never say that we just giving you something, because we're giving you the sources. We're giving you the source material. We're giving you everything you need. I'm talking about stockpile. We have way more information to prove what we're standing upon. All you got to do is go back and watch the videos. They here. They out here in social media. Plenty of them. We done proved this stuff. And you cannot prove Champollion's methodology. And the key question I want y'all to always remember when somebody run up on you with that nonsense, like we say, we don't deny he created his own alphabet chart. That ain't no big deal. We saying that ain't the alphabet chart of the ancient Egyptians. And if it is, show me one. Because we seen the alphabet chart that was created by, you know, the Proto-Canaanites. We seen the alphabet chart, you know, that was created by all these other nations, such as your Meroitic charts. You see what I'm saying? That are being attributed to them anyway. But show us one that was created by the ancient Egyptians. Because that one, and Champollion created, you already know it's not created by the ancient Egyptians. That's it. Once you ask that question, they can't show you, they out of there. And you ain't got to go into all the stuff where I done showed y'all constantly what these people telling you, that these are pseudo-hieroglyphs. So we got to be able to recognize pseudo. When we say pseudo-hieroglyph, we're not talking about the symbols themselves. We're talking about somebody's misuse of the symbols, taking the symbols and applying their own charts. These are called pseudo-hieroglyphs because they were not used the way that they have been intended by the ancient Egyptians. That's what we mean by that. We're not calling the hieroglyphs themselves pseudo. We're saying the use and the misuse of those who came later and created their own stuff. And it ain't even a bad thing that some people created their little charts or whatever because they were Reverend Kemet. But these are called by modern academia themselves, but they try to use the exception when it comes to Champollion now. But everybody else, they call it pseudo-hieroglyphs. Ptolemaic hieroglyphs are Ptolemaic hieroglyphs because we got to give them proper categorization so you know what we're talking about. So we just told you what pseudo-hieroglyphs are. So Ptolemaic hieroglyphs are the hieroglyphs that were created during the time of Ptolemy. Now these actually, some of them, the 7,000 signs that were added, they weren't created by our ancestors. These were added by the Ptolemies here. So we can say those were actually created by the Ptolemies. So not only they Ptolemaic hieroglyphs, but we can say that they are pseudo and Ptolemaic hieroglyphs. You see? So that's why I say, this is the debunking. That's why I put that in this special expression, right? So now that we understand this, speaking on the book of the universe. The universe itself is a book. As it is above, so it is below. As it is within, so it is without. You see? You are a book. You see? You are a universe. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. Right? So once you understand that, now we can get into the context of the book of the universe or the book of creation, yourself and everything around you as it relates to understanding the true decipherment of METU. And it has nothing to do with deciphering symbols, in the way that they taught you, but also it has more to do with basically being able to look at what is around you and come to a conclusion, in decipherment of the very nature of the things around you. This is the way of the ancient Egyptians. I ain't making this up. Didn't I show it to you in Ibn Washi's work? They told you every time the ancient Egyptians wanted to depict something, they didn't depict letters. They depicted, people, places, and things. Didn't Mustafa Gadala say the same thing? Huh? Did not Mustafa Gadala say that the hieroglyphs that were created was a smoke screen that was created to hide the true hieratic language of what we call the Medu in Kemet, the language of the Egyptians? So there's a term we say, you hear said all the time, Allah speaks to man through man. The Grand Quran even talks about the ways that Allah speaks to man. Through men, from behind a veil, by the sending of messengers, and by inspiration and revelation, signs and symbols of a conscious mind, and men and women of understanding, so to speak. So this is what we mean when we speak of the book of the universe. You have to be able to decipher the language of God, and God doesn't speak as you hear me speaking now. The great God speaks by what he manifests. And that's why you see in the work, the book of fire, they was just reading from it, all life is thought and thought activity. You see, all life is thought and thought activity. So METU is thought activity. All life within the book of the universe, within the book of creation, its decipherment will be based upon thought activity. So therefore, you have to contemplate. You see? Contemplate. This is what we are told. So when we look at it from that aspect right there, family, if you're able to contemplate, this is special information. This is the way that was demonstrated by Horapollo. Clement of Alexandria spoke on the same thing. They call it sensus mentis. They talked about, the contemplation upon the signs. The ancient Egyptians didn't look at letters. They looked at things and they meditated upon them, basically, and that these things were not taught by the priesthood to the common people. So we have to keep that in mind as well. So this is a grand drawing. So what I really want to do is I want to revisit certain aspects and touch on the Book of Fire and show you how these things are relevant. And I'm going back like in a brief recap, not going into these things, but I'm going to show you some applied Moorish science real quick, in the works that can be used by our people in order to get a grand insight and a grand drawing. We got to touch these things so our people know why we draw the way we do. So I'm going to highlight a few things that were actually read by our scribes. And then I'm going to go into the source materials for our family to utilize to now understand how to deal with the metaphysics. Because this is something that you can't do overnight, family. This is rigorous training. It even said that in the works of Ibn Washi. I want to start with this particular statement right here. Right here, family. Where our chairman said, Islamism, as the world's first religious creed, was pronounced Hotep. Islam, grand man.
Yeah, you can make that bigger if you
Oh, it's still okay. Let me go over here real quick.
Like about a quarter of the screen.
Yeah, I got it. I know what I got to do. I got to open that one page. There it go, right there. Islam. All right. Thank you, brother scribe. So, yes. So Islamism, as the world's first religious creed, was pronounced Hotep, and Hotep is the holistic science or study of peace. Understand what's being said there, family. Hotep means peace. Those who know the history as we have given it to you, in many occasions, for those who don't know, most of what you understand of Islam was taken from the teachings of Ptahhotep. Even going into the prostration, all the way, we got proof of all of this, all of the different modes of prostration and everything, indirectly through the Sabians, who were the Cushites, who were actually creators of Kemet, who were annexing Mecca in Saudi Arabia at the time. So the Cushites were the original inhabitants. Let's make that plain. See, we was going to prove that if they would have brought forth that discussion between me and that brother Sekou. But, they just be talking. They don't really want me to show this information. I know what time it is. It's a reason why they're trying to suppress what it is that I'm bringing. But it's all good. We're going to continue to bring the truth over here. So Islamism, as the world's first religious creed, was pronounced Hotep. Hotep is the holistic science, a study of peace. That was before Muhammad. See, this is what we teach over here. So for those who would like to accuse Moors as being Arabized, yeah, you might have some Moors that have that type of understanding, but here in the Moorish American government, we teach exactly what we say. So listen to what it says. It says Hotep translates into the Arabic language as Islam. Now, somebody ignorant will say, how does Hotep translate into Arabic? Because Islam simply means peace, people. We're not saying the word Hotep is etymologically the word Islam. We're saying that the definition for the word Islam is peace, and the definition for the word Hotep, which existed before Islam, is peace, and the translation of this wisdom into the Arabic teaching is Islam. That's what we're saying. Don't get it twisted. So it said Islam became the Arabian name of the old-time religion. The Arabian name, it says, as it were perfected for the Arabians by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Surah 5, Ayat 3. And this day I've perfected for you your religion and called it Islam. That's the quote. He chose Islam, it says, from the African ancient monotheistic sciences to the people of Havilah, Arabia. And they was asking me, is Islam an African way of life? Because that's what our discussion was supposed to be about. So here it is right here, our chairman giving it to you. Because they had strayed away from this straight way. That's the truth. The Arabs had strayed away. They were in a state of what they call Jahiliyyah. Even though they were still using the name Allah, and they actually acknowledged, even in that state, Allah as the supreme being. They never made Allah an idol. So anybody tell you Allah was an idol, they lying to you. Even in pre-Islamic Arabia, Allah was never considered an idol. But even the name Allah, we have proven to come from Kemet. We done proved that on numerous occasions. We ain't even got to go there. It says, as taught by his African forefathers. In fact, so that would let you know when they say, is Islam an African religion? Of course it is. Muhammad was a Cushite. We are the ones saying, oh, that's an Arab, this and Arab. But who were the original inhabitants of Saudi Arabia before the ones you see up there today? It was the Cushites. This ain't something we wishing to be. This is the history. And only somebody ignorant that don't know about the history or say that foolishness. You hear these cats out here, I call it eloquent ignorance. You know, they have learned so well to speak eloquently and being ignorant of what they're talking about. A lot of them people that you see out here trying to teach, they have become eloquent in their own ignorance. So you got to be able to recognize this. Now, if you ain't studied and you ain't learned and you ain't read enough, it sounds good to you. You think that they bringing the truth, boy. But they're only eloquent in their ignorance. I see through it because I done studied. So somebody that has not studied extensively, as we have studied over here, they accept that shallow, information as something that's deep. But we see straight through it. And that's the problem. Problem is that you got people trying to deal with the majority rule. Since the majority going with it, then it must be right. Well, that ain't how we rock over here. It can be 100 of them against me. And I'm going to stand on the truth because I know what it is. And we ain't talking about being arrogant. We bringing you the proof with it. Because the general opinion of men would never alter the nature of the truth. I don't care how many of them agreeing with it and it's wrong. They'll never make it right, family. And I ain't going to never submit and go on with the narrative just to be somebody's friend. So I guess I'm going to make a whole lot of enemies. And you will too. If you stand up against the status quo. And the only reason they're going against you because they're using the same tactics that the European has used throughout the years to keep our people mentally enslaved. Our own people doing it now. Our own people trying to cancel our culture. They are agents, and agent provocateurs is what they become. You got to be able to recognize it and know it when you see it. You got to have the courage to stand up against this foolishness and falsehood, even when it's coming from those who look like us. Stop lying to them and siding with them. Stop being their friends. Stop acting like you like what they teaching when you know they teaching wrong. Now, when you don't know, what's being taught, then, you don't know no better. But when you know they saying something, family, that ain't right after I done showed you all this stuff and this proof, and you sit there and you agree with them, you are part of the problem if you do that. Because you ain't got courage enough in you to stand up and tell them, no, bro, we got proof right here. That ain't right. And that's the problem with them. That's why, commission crazy, because I won't go, no. I stand on what I know. I don't just oppose people to oppose people. If you're right, you're right. But if I got evidence right here and you just going off of something because somebody said it, and you're going to be stubborn in that, yeah, we're going to clash. We're going to have some conflict. Not that I want to clash and have some conflict with you, but you going to be the one that clash with me. Because you want to try to force that narrative on me, and that ain't gonna never happen. You see? Because I'm firm in this. So it says, in fact, Muhammad was a direct descendant of Hagar, the Egyptian goddess, which mothered Ishmael, first true son of Abraham. Our brother Renoka Rashida, may he rise in power. Honors to the brother. Go look at some of his stuff on Islam. He was an Afrocentrist, but he was honest. He told him, said, man, look, I found Ishmael engraved in stone. This is a picture of Ishmael. And Ishmael looks like Bess. If you ever seen a picture of Bess, of ancient Kemet, Ishmael looked just like Bess. But he said, you know, this is the descendant. You know, Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael. He, you know, he talked about all of that. He was actually taken up into these different areas. You know, so honest to that brother. Like I say, all our elders, though they believe what they believe, none of them brothers attack the teaching. So the problem is this new generation, you know, they have been taught a lot of hatred. You know, so they like to attack, you know, certain things, then still claim that they standing on the shoulders of brothers like Renoka Rashida. They standing on the shoulders of G.M. Jane. They standing on the shoulders of Dr. John Henry Clark. They say they standing on the shoulders of Dr. Ben. But none of these brothers, even though they had disagreements, you know, about certain things, none of these brothers would get up there and just slander a way of life. How do we know this? Dr. Ben became a Muslim before he passed from. So if he hated Islam so much, like people try to make it seem like it, why did he convert to Islam? Why did our brother Dr. John Henry Clark say if he were to choose a way of life, a religion, he would choose Islam? Why did he say that, since he hated Islam? So if you're saying you follow the teachings of these two brothers, because these are the main one they claim they follow. These are the main one they like to throw around, you know, and say that they follow the ways of these brothers. But both of these brothers honor Islam. Same thing about our brother Kaba Kameni. Brothers may have their own pathway, but them brothers honor the Moors. They honor Islam. Same thing with Professor Small. They honor Islam. They may have their own way of life. They'll tell you about them Arabs. We do the same thing. The same way they teach you about the Arabs trying to Arabize, that's what we teach over here. We don't try to Arabize out. That's why we giving it to you. We telling you everything come from Kemet. We taking you to the source. So don't confuse what we teach with what the Arabs teach. Because that's where you're going to be burned up from the start. Because you hear the word more, you got Moors teach different things, people. We teach what comes from the source. Even the brothers and sisters in the MST of A, some of them attack what it is we teach. They're teaching about Kemet, you know. So you can't mix. You got to know who you're dealing with. That's the first thing. You got to know which Moors you're dealing with. Because everybody that's claiming Moorish science ain't teaching the same. You got some Moors that don't even like using the term Moorish science. You got some Moors that don't even talk about use the word circle self. The prophet didn't call his book Circle 7. He called it the Moorish Holy Quran. When right there, he say, open up all your means according to the what? The Circle 7. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just showing you the conflict of interest involved with this information, so y'all know exactly who y'all dealing with and who feeding y'all and what they feeding y'all. So this is our teaching here. This is what we teaching. So it says also, it goes on, readers must bring to mind the roots of Hotep began millenniums before Kemet became the center of the world's greatest teachings and civilizations. The roots of Hotep, that means the teachings of peace. Anybody know, even Islam, it'll tell you that Islam didn't start with Muhammad. Peace is an attribute of the great God. It existed in the essence of the very beginning of creation. Harmony, truth, balance, right, order, and justice, all that there. So it says the name Kemet translates into the kingdom of God, Lord of the God, God of gods. It says which modern man called Egypt. And they refer to the creator as Adulamare or Necha. And this is showing you the different African traditions. You see that Mare, the connection with Necha. It says, this translation is the true foundation for Islamic fundamental. There is no God but God, Allah, and Allah is the Father of the universe. When we go into that special drawing, this is powerful. And then it goes on to say the committee and ADEPTUS was sent to various nations in need of realignment with the oneness of the great God were called angels. And this is how these teachings reach different people, just like the ADEPTUS. The ADEPTUS with the sun and the rays coming down with the hands at the end of them. The hand is symbolic to the mind. So these are the different rays of truth that came through various masterminds. And those who be at the beginning of that particular civilization and culture, like our prophet, they reached up. Wisdom speak from out of the highest plane of spirit life. So there was a hand clasp that took place there, meeting of the minds. You see, whoever came as a hierophant represented the ray that came down as the hand. And whoever represented the one that was touched, like Muhammad was touched by Jibril, the hierophant who taught him, then he clasped. There was a meeting of the minds. This was God's way of transferring the message, the transition of God power. You see? So yeah, that's what it is. So all of it go back to our ancestors. So make no mistake about it. You understand that first. So now when we get into this, y'all already see we say Islamism the first religious creed. And you see all the signs of most of the way of life that you would think of that we follow now, most of the people. In the Circle 7 are all of these teachings. So we're not some people that come out here as fanatics. Well, we trying to browbeat people over the head with the Grand Quran. Are we going to beat people over the head with the teachings of Muhammad or the teaching of Jesus or Buddha? And we're going to just take one of these teachings and that's the end all be all. No. The foundation of the Circle 7 has all of these teachings in it. That's what make the Circle 7 a universal book. It has all of these teachings in it. But we're dealing with the lofty aspects of the teaching. We're not dealing with that man-made religiosity and rite ceremonies and form. We're dealing with the teachings that come from each of these doctrines that have to do with self-mastery. You mastering yourself, not all the dogma that you've been taught throughout the years about these teachings. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali was very powerful. And we say the first religious creed because we're saying that all of them can be traced back to Kemet. We done proven this. All of these teachings indirectly come from Kemet. A lot of them have taken from the linguistic aspects and the teachings, and they repackaged it based on the culture that they have. But it's still the ancient Kemetian teaching. That's what we teach. So to briefly go into this without going into everything and reading this again, I'm going to just go into Islamism by the numbers. Islamism by the numbers, as it tells you here, it says the true mystery system of Egypt, which Noble Drew Ali, an ancient Egyptian master, adept master, called Islamism, is founded upon the science of numbers. See, men comprehend the dynamics and the origin of infinity by understanding numbers. The equation science of numbers give rise to all seen and unseen worlds. All of this has to do with what we call METU and reading the book of creation or the book of the universe. See, geometry, algebra, arithmetic are the thrones for astronomy, medicine, architecture, calendars, arts, religion, creation, civilization. The order of the universe and the harmonies of life are all contingent upon numbers. The mystery system of Egypt acquires its strength from the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. These are the strong numbers because they cannot be divided evenly, unlike 2, 4, 6, and 8. And here are a few examples of the creative powers of the positive numbers. Now, just stopping there, understanding that Islamism It's dealing with that measure by the numbers, but this was done Kemetically. You know, this was inherited from the ancient Kemites. So one of the books that we utilize, and that's what I want to do right now because I'm going into the source materials. I want to show you one of the books that we utilize based on this. We got a couple of books with numbers that's very powerful, but this one right here, this is one of them here, family. You know, this is the main one right here, and I can actually read the preface here too as well. You want to get this, you know, you want to get this. This is how we fulfill this measure dealing with Islamism by the numbers. This is one of the ways that you can go into the book of creation, the book of the universe, based upon the mathematical. This is the works of Mustafa Gadala, a native-born Egyptian, not a European, somebody that was born in Kemet. So you have seen us utilize his works, you know, in our mathematical transliteration, you know, the teaching. So get this. You need this.
Islam,
Grand Secretary of the State.
yes, sir. Pardon self. Are you displaying the book?
I'm just gonna go into the preface and read from
Okay.
Islam.
All right. Gratitude. Pardon self.
Oh no, you're all right. Because what it is, I'm gonna show them the screen. I'm gonna show it to them real quick too, the ones that need to see it. Let me do this here. I'm gonna represent this screen, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it on share entire screen because I got some more that I want to show them too. So let me do this here. Make sure, it's blowed up. Okay, can you see that, Grand Secretary of the State?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gratitude. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the Egyptian alphabetical letters of the creation cycle. And it got all the content in here. And I might be able to get the preface up here. It actually got his background too, for those who will give you that so you know who he is. Mustafa Gadala is an Egyptian American independent Egyptologist who was born in Cairo, Egypt, which is actually where the prophet ended up going when he was in his youth. In 1944, it says he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from Cairo University. From his childhood, Gadala pursued his ancient Egyptian roots with passion through continuous study and research. Since 1990, he has dedicated and concentrated all his time into researching and writing. Gadala is the author of 22 published internationally acclaimed books about the various aspects of the Egyptian history and civilization and its influences worldwide. In addition, he operates a multimedia resource center for the accurate educative studies of ancient Egypt, presented in engaging, practical, and interesting manner that appeals to the general public. He was the founder of the Tehuti Research Foundation, which later incorporated into a multilingual Egyptian Wisdom Center. And then it gives you the online address, EgyptianWisdomCenter.org, in more than 10 languages. He is also the founder and head of the online Egyptian Mystical University, EgyptianMysticalUniversity.org, and another ongoing activity has been his creation and production of performing arts such as the Isis Rises operetta, to be followed by soon by Horus. He got a whole bunch of different www.Isis operetta as well, the Initiate operetta as well, and the preface is what I want to touch on. So listen to what is being said here. It says, the Egyptians considered the letters to be elemental, basic things in a very real sense. For the Stoics, it appears that language, might be, hold up, trying to stretch it out a little bit more so y'all can see it even better. Okay, get this out of the way here. So it says the ancient Egyptians considered the letters to be elemental. Now this is dealing with actual letters now. Basic things in a very real sense. For the Stoics, it appears that language was not simply modeled after the physical world, but belonged to it, part and parcel. It said it was customary among the Egyptians to identify the letters of the alphabet and with them individual sounds of speech. The Stoicheia, it says literally physical particles. It says throughout the Egyptian history, it says the alphabet was invested with very real mundane significance. To them, letters are things, not pictures of things. Right? This book focuses on the relationship between the sequence of the creation cycle and the Egyptian ABCD alphabets. Such an orderly scientific sequence was expressed eloquently in poetic stanzas, which were called lunar mansions, for each letter in the cosmic creation role of each letter a mansion in the creation cycle. It says this very exact information was repeated later in Sufi and other references. Creation is the actualization of divinity through a process of linguistic auto-representation. That's METU right there, family. The book of creation is the actualization of divinity through a process of linguistic auto-representation. Creation and revelation amount to the same thing. It is the aim of this book to provide such an exposition, one which, while based on sound scholarship, will present the issues in language incomprehensible to non-specialist readers. Technical terms have been kept to a minimum, and these are explained as non-technically as possible in the glossary. This book is divided into 5 parts containing a total of 35 chapters. So, it goes into all of those things there, where he talk about the historical deception. That's the first thing he addressed of the ancient Egyptian linguistics. Will clarify the intended confusion that hides the alphabetical form of writing in ancient Egypt as an archetype of all the languages in the world. Then it ended up going into a whole lot of other things as well, family, in here. So get your hand on this book. And the hand is symbolic to the mind, by the way. It goes through every measure, letter by letter. He even go into telling you here, for example, the ancient Egyptian word neter and its feminine form neter have been wrongly and possibly intentionally translated to God and goddess by almost all academians. Neteru, plural of neter and neter, are the divine principles and functions of the one supreme God. See? It says you may find variations in writing the same ancient Egyptian terms such as Amin, Amun, Amun, Pir, or Pir. This is because the vowels you see in translated Egyptian texts are only approximations of sounds, which are used by Western Egyptologists to help them pronounce the ancient Egyptian terms / words. We will be using the most commonly recognized words for the English-speaking people that identify a neter, god, goddess, or a pharaoh or a city, followed by other variations of such a word or term. It should be noted that the real names of the deities, gods, and goddesses were kept secret so as to guard the cosmic power of the deity. The neteru were referred to by epithets that describe a particular quality, attribute, or aspects of their roles. Such applies to all common terms such as Isis, Osiris, Amun, Re, Horus, etc. So he goes into the Latin calendar when using them. He goes into all this stuff right here. This is another measure here to be pointed out. There were / are no ancient Egyptian writings / texts that were categorized by the Egyptians themselves as religious or funerary or sacred. So when you hear somebody talk about the religious text, Egyptians didn't classify that. Funerary text, sacred, they didn't classify that. Western academia gave the ancient Egyptian texts arbitrary names such as the book of this and the book of that, the divisions, the utterance, the spells, etc. Ancient Egyptian wouldn't know what in the world are these people talking about if you told them, can you give me the book of divisions? or the book of utterances, they'll be looking at you like you crazy. What? You gonna take somebody's stuff and call it what you want to, and then tell them they wrong? Because you got some European that were doing that. You know, they didn't know what they was writing, people. So we're gonna call it the book of this, the book of Baron, because Baron found the papyrus. So we're gonna call it the Baron papyrus. And if you ask them, it's like if I ask you, excuse me, man, give me that exhument of a nation from right over there on my bookshelf. Okay, well, you know to get the exhument of a nation. But oftentimes, even when we say book of fire, some people think we be talking about a whole nother book. But that's just one of the, you know, the attributes we give to the exhument of a nation. But now, if you come up and say, yeah, give me that book right there, you know, of let's just say Moorish magnanimity. And they done gave that exhument of a nation that title, and we ain't never called it that. You know, we're going to be looking at you like, what book of Moorish magnanimity? I mean, even though the book of fire is a book of Moorish magnanimity, you know, it's a magnanimous book. But I'm just speaking on it. You know, we're going to look like we don't know what you're talking about. If you don't say book of fire, you don't say exhument of a nation, you know. And so this is the same instance with the Egyptians. They talking about the books of divisions. The word division, you know, meant something else to the Egyptian language. You see what I'm saying? But when they say book, they say per imheru. But when they add all this other stuff in there, you know, the Egyptians didn't say that. And that's what he's going off of. They say Western academia even decided that a certain book had a Theban version or this or that time period version. After believing their own inventive creation, academia then accused the ancient Egyptians of making mistakes and missing portions of their own writings. And he's like, huh? That's what that question mark and exclamation mark mean. Like, really? It says, for ease of reference, we will mention the common but arbitrary Western academic categorization of ancient Egyptian texts, even though the ancient Egyptians themselves never did. See, we got to get past stuff like that, family. We got to correct our thought pattern on stuff like that. You know? So, yeah, he go into all that there. He goes into showing how they come up with these different alphabets. This is one of the foundations that support everything it is that we've been demonstrating, family. He go letter by letter, you know, give you a pronunciation of it. He talk about, this is the main thing here. He says, this is that chapter 1, the historical deception of the ancient Egyptian linguistics. It says the hieroglyphic smoke screen. And I was reading this to some of these cats, and they were still trying to twist the meaning. That ain't what he said. The man said exactly what he said. That's his whole premise, that the hieroglyphics is not a language. What are you talking about? He got books that say this over and over. So he said the hieroglyphic smoke screen. In other words, the hieroglyphs was used as a smoke screen to hide the true language of ancient Egypt. And the way they get you is because, remember, the ancestors created the pictures. So it's hard for somebody that has been taught that that's the original language, you know, to convince them when they accept in the Ptolemaic alphabetical chart under the guise of so-called accepting the teachings of the ancestors. So that's what they're getting you at. They're running it real good on you. It says the biggest smoke screen in history is the concealing the ancient Egyptian alphabetical writing system. To conceal the writing system means they hid it. Western Egyptologists made everyone think of the Egyptian language as a collection of primitive pictures called hieroglyphs. And don't they still think like that? Don't they think it's crazy? This is a native-born Egyptian now. They concealed the Egyptian alphabetical system as the mother of all languages in the world. And then he goes into using what the actual people that did it, Alan Gardenia, prime suspect, in his book, Egyptian Grammar, tried to rationalize how they concealed the Egyptian alphabetical system. In other words, they're going to give you some dung, you know, or some dungaree, so to speak, for how they concealed it and why they did it. They got an excuse for why they did what they did, man. In his book, Egyptian Grammar, Gardenia writes, the Egyptologists have experienced the practical need of adopting some common standard to which different hieratic hands could be reduced. In other words, they want to agree mix up. And instead of selecting one simple style of hieratic, instead of using the hieratic for the purpose, have preferred to transcribe all hieratic hands into hieroglyphic. In other words, they chose to take hieratic signs that they think that they are guessing may look and be the same as each other, and then say, all right, well, this means this letter. Instead of using the hieratic, they chose to try to put pictures up there. So this is the first show of them creating and reverse engineered, so to speak, to create their own alphabet. Champollion had already did what he did. You see what I'm saying? But then here go your boy come off in here with this nonsense. And he one of the chief Egyptologists that you hear all of them reading about. So from the onset, they was already plotting. Gardenia's explanation / justification for burying alphabetical hieratic writings assures that there were various forms of writings for various purposes. The very same Western academies never used the same lame excuse with Greek, Roman, or any other language in the world. This lame excuse was only used in Egyptian writings to deceive and conceal the ancient Egyptian alphabetical writing language. That's a source right there. I shouldn't even have to say nothing else. We done read this numerous times. Look here now. There is not a single reference prior to this 19th and 20th century. He right. Because it only happened after Champollion in the 19th century. Coming behind that, it says there's not a single reference prior to this, meaning people using pictures as a language. 19th, 20th century Western Egyptologist conspiracy that stated a relationship between hieroglyphics, pictorial signs, and the hieratic and demotic alphabetical signs. In other words, what your boy Champollion pulled off. You ain't gonna find it coming from no Egyptologist, that it relates to that of ancient Kemet. On the contrary, every single reference stated explicitly how unrelated they are. True. We seen Ibn Washi and what he said. We seen what Pope Clement and what he said. We seen what Hor Apollo said. We seen in the documentations of the Tanis manuscript. You know what I mean? I mean, what more do you need? So, then he goes into, Isaac Taylor. This is another Egyptologist, Western academia. The ancient Egyptian alphabetical form of writing. The most eminent authority on languages, Isaac Taylor, in his book, The History of the Alphabets, Volume 1, page 62. The immensely early date at which the symbols of an alphabetic nature are found on the Egyptian monuments is a fact great interest and importance. It is of great interest in so much as it constitutes the starting point in the history of the alphabet, establishing the literal truth of the assertion that the letters of the alphabet are older than the pyramids, older probably than any other existing monument of human civilization. Isaac Taylor, in his book History of the Alphabets, Volume 1, page 64, wrote about the Egyptian king Sent. King Sent, in whose reign the alphabetic characters were already in use, may be taken to have lived between 4000 and 4700 BC. Startling as the result of such calculations may appear, it must be affirmed to be probable that the beginnings of the graphic art in the Valley of the Nile must be relegated to a date of 7,000 or 8,000 years from the present time. So they talk about the age of it. They say it's very clear that the ancient Egyptian alphabetical language was the first in the world, thousands of years prior to the much, ado about nothing, Sinaitic scripts, or Sinai scripts, which is they referring to Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. And he says the more one studies the various languages and dialects of the world, the more it becomes clear and clear that there was originally one language that split into various tongues. We proved this. The Bible and ancient writers confirm such an original language because of false pride and prejudices of Western academia and religious Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Ziliates, it says, the origin of this universal mother language has been ignored. Evidence confirmed that the ancient Egypt is the single source of the universal language. On this subject matter, Plato admits the role of Egypt in his collected dialogues. Philebus, as well, 18 BCD, it says, "For now we shall only refer to the recognition of the Egyptian alphabetic letters, indicative of the unity of speech and script." And then it's talking about here, we had our scribes demonstrating their last measure on Tehuti, a thuth, a thought, conceived of the letter as a kind of bond of unity, uniting as it was all these sounds into one, and so he gave utterance to the expression of art of letters, implying that there was one art that dealt with sounds. It says very clear that Plato and Philebus did not refer to pictorial forms of expression, hieroglyphs, but rather to expression by individual diverse letters, each with its particular sound value. Other classical writers also stated that Egypt was the original source of alphabets. So he's showing you the distinction between alphabets and pictures as well. Most modern Western scholars affirm explicitly and implicitly that it says that the ancient Egyptian alphabet and language is the oldest source of the world. Literature of the ancient Egyptians, German Egyptologist E.A.R.S, he spoke on the alphabet as well. The Egyptians alone were destined to adopt a remarkable method, following which they attained to the highest form of writing the alphabet. The British Egyptologist W.M. Flinders Petrie, in his book, The Formation of the Alphabet, concluded, from the beginning of the prehistoric ages, a cursive system consisting of linear signs, hieratic, full of variety and distinction, was certainly used in Egypt. Petrie has collected and tabulated alphabetical letter forms from very different ages. The earliest belong to the earliest prehistoric age of Egypt, probably before 7000 BCE, extended to the Greek and Roman eras. Petrie also compiled from several independent sources similar-looking alphabetical letter forms from 25 locations in Asia Minor, Greece, Italy, Spain, and other locations throughout Europe. Petrie's tabulation of these alphabetical letter forms shows that all alphabetical letter forms were present in ancient Egypt since early pre-dynastic eras over 7,000 years ago, prior to any place else in the world. All the Egyptian alphabetical letter forms are clearly distinguishable in the oldest recovered so-called Egyptian hieratic writing more than 5,000 years ago. And he say so-called because it's really called the METU and Kemet. That's another thing, the name for these languages. The same exact ancient Egyptian letter forms were later adopted and spread by other people throughout the world. We've proven this. Ancient Egyptian texts reflect the high culture of the Egyptian language and people. German Egyptologist Adolf Ehrman, in his book, The Literature of the Ancient Egyptians, wrote, and that's actually page 24, Roman numerals. As far back as we can trace it, the ancient Egyptian language, or the language, displays signs of being carefully fostered. It is rich in metaphors and figures of speech, a cultural language which composes, it says, and thinks for the person who writes. So it goes on and on and on, family. It's a whole bunch in it. It's almost like they got the whole book in here. They even go into the aspect about Arabic. How really Arabic is really ancient Egyptian language. They go into that as well. Quoting Alan Gardenia and all that right there. We done proven the connection in strong words. It has been stated and repeated that the Egyptian vocalic linguistic system died and was replaced by a brand new language called Arabic. Nothing can be further from the truth. Alan Gardenia, in his book, The Egyptian Grammar, page 3, stated, the entire vocalic system of Old Egyptian may indeed be proved to have reached a state resembling that of Hebrew or modern Arabic. See what I'm saying? To say Egyptians speak Arabic is totally false and illogical. It is the other way around. The Arabs have long ago adopted and continue to speak Egyptian. So yeah, it says a much detailed analysis of this and other languages in the world as they relate to the ancient Egyptian archetypal, vocalic, and alphabetical writing system can be found in the ancient Egyptian universal writing modes by Mustafa Gadala. So yeah, it goes on, family. You got to get your hand on this book right here. He talks about, the Egyptian cosmology and different allegories, and the concepts of life, You got to know the metaphysics and all that. He get all the way into this. You know, this is what we deal with our numerology at, so to speak, Kemetic gematria. You know, he goes in, family. And a lot of this correspond with what we teach morally. You know, we talk about the logos and everything up in here. Very powerful work here. You know, so yeah, Islamism without the schism. Talk about the letters and, you know, moving up to 1 through 7. You know, the lunar mansions, Tehuti. You know, it goes into all that. So I just wanted to give our family the history because they got science behind all of this stuff here. You know, and I want to move to my next phase in pointing out measures in the Book of Fire. So Islamism by the numbers, you know, is definitely covered, you know, in the Egyptian alphabetical letters of the creation cycle. You know, this is definitely a tool for that. So let me go on to the next portion here. We also have, you know, with the 7 adept degrees that were mentioned here, we also have Yehoshua going through these degrees, being initiated. You know, the way that we deal with our 7 adept degrees, we find the teachings of the Sabbat there, which talk about the contemplation of the signs and symbols as opposed to them being used as alphabets. You know, where Yehoshua was told to find himself by contemplating upon hieroglyphs, not reading them in the way that the Europeans come up with their little system. So we already emphasized that. I want to go into, that's dealing with it. You know, we also had the adept deification of man we went over, which we were showing that, you know, ones are actually initiated into these systems like our holy prophet was. You know, and we see these different titles and degrees, you know, such as God, prophet, Christ, Messiah. These are different stations to us and not some person that you put on a pedestal. All of us have the ability to come through these different degrees. And notice it says that they were taught 2 to 3 years exoteric and 12 to 18 years esoteric. It's rigorous training, family. You know, see, through these 3 steps, you know, the ancient ones perfected themselves, you know, and they perfected the mystery system of Egypt. So, yeah, it goes on. And all of these people was given signs and symbols. We talked about our prophet being given the circle 7 in the scimitar, in the star. You know, same thing that Yehoshua had, circle 7. So, from this aspect, we also find our ladder, you know, the ancient Comedian mystery system, 3-step ladder. So also the teachings of know thyself. Again, upon the sacred temples and walls of the pyramids of the word SULTANATE, know thyself. Symbolism, signs and symbols of conscious mind and men and women of understanding. You know, and this is where we get further into Islamism being many sciences, and it goes into the symbols. Notice what it says. Symbols are an embodiment of a multiplicity of thoughts compiled into a single expression. Symbols are man-made emblems that personify the characteristics of a state, conditions, era, formulas, etc. This is the same when it comes to reading the book of creation. Formulas. There are formulas when you get into the mathematics of the Egyptian creation cycle. We showed that to you, which are immaterial. Symbols usually interpret the purpose of use of many things while also showing both its magnitude and limitations. People are accustomed to symbols and being around them every day. Most symbols are easy to recognize, e.g. So this is what is around us. You see? People, places, and things. Once you're able to decipher that, this is the true decipherment of metal netta. And it's not limited to a letter. It's predicated upon the wisdom that you have and your observation. See, it goes on into all of this right here. They are not as commonly known as their kindred symbols in astronomy and astrology. You know, the glory of a trinity of symbols, they are nourished from the breaths of divine geometry, astronomy, astrology, and architecture. You know, so Islamism is many sciences. You see, that's very different from Arabism. A lot of Arabism would definitely be in opposition to what we're talking about right now. So do not confuse this with Orthodox Islam as the way the Arabs teach it. The religion or science of the Moors. See, we dealing with these things from an aspect of science. You see? So anyway, it goes also in the Islamism, and to touch on this as well, since we're talking about the different sciences and the signs and the symbols, I'm going to show you another work to use that go hand in hand with that. And this one is this book by Mustafa Gadala. This corresponds, to a lot of that. And this is the Egyptian metaphysical language. Let me see. They got a preview here in this page. Yeah, this is the Egyptian the Egyptian hieroglyph metaphysical language. This is a good book. We're trying to give you books, that are, beginners and starters and very extensive information so you can begin to learn this stuff. So when you talk about signs and symbols and all that, you're always dealing with metaphysics. So we don't have to give you the background of Mustafa Gadala again. We'll see if they had a preface in here. We already know we gave that a few minutes ago. Here we go. The preface here is, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture represents a concept, idea, and not a single letter / sound. When we say picture this or imagine that, for images are representations of concepts and ideas beyond words. The picture conveys information more efficiently than letters / words. This book covers the Egyptian hieroglyph metaphysical language of images, pictures, which is the language of the mind, intellect, and divine. It is the aim of this book to provide such an exposition, one which, while based on sound scholarship, will present the issues in language comprehensible non-specialist readers. It says technical terms have been kept to a minimum. This book is divided into 8 chapters, and it goes into historical deception of ancient Egyptian linguistics, will clear the confusion intended to misrepresent the Egyptian hieroglyphics as a primitive form of writing with individual sound values. The Egyptian hieroglyphics are ideograms, which are different, and they have nothing to do with the Egyptian alphabetical system. It says, Chapter 2, the scientific metaphysical realities of pictorial images. Hieroglyphs explains how the human beings process information received from the 5 senses to the brain through visualized images, how each hieroglyphic image has an imitative and symbolic, figurative, and allegorical meanings. The concurrence in modern science of such multiple meanings of each image and how a series of images are processed in the consciousness the same way like a dream is processed. The Egyptian hieroglyphic imagery and depictions of thoughts explains how Egyptian hieroglyphic images represent metaphysical concepts, relationships between their functions and geometrical forms, and provides an overview of the Egyptian formation of such ideograms. Then it has the animal hieroglyphic images, explains the metaphysical significance of such images, and highlights the significance, it says, of over 30 related Egyptian hieroglyphic images. Human and animal headed like human hieroglyphic images explains the metaphysical significance of such images and highlights the significance of about 10 related Egyptian hieroglyphic images. And the human body parts hieroglyphic images explains the metaphysical significance of such images and highlights the significance over 10 related Egyptian hieroglyphic images. Chapter 7, Nature and Geometrical Figure hieroglyphic images explains the metaphysical significance of such images and highlights the significance over 10 related Egyptian hieroglyphic images. And last but not least, Chapter 8, Man-Made Object. It says hieroglyphic image explains the metaphysical significance of such images and highlights the significance of about 20 related Egyptian hieroglyphic images. Mustafa Gaddala. So yeah, we can see it right here, family. So they get the same thing about the terminology being used here. But yeah, this is another work that you most definitely have to have in your archives, because this gives you the metaphysical breakdown. Some of them, there are other books that go further too, not just limited to Mustafa Gaddala. We just putting these out here for somebody who want a basic alignment with the teachings. You see, there's another one, 2 more books from the brother to look into, because I also have another book that I want to, a few more books that I would like our people to get their hand on as well. Let's see here. This is another book from Mustafa Gaddala. Let me see here. I think they had the preview here. Yeah, the preview is over here. So, they run the history down. This is the Egyptian divinities, the all who are one. Let me show you this. I thought it was going to show the cover here. This is the cover. Well, they didn't show it there again. They got it up here like they're going to show it. But we can do it this way because I know they'll probably have one here. They got a couple of them. So this is the cover of this book, The Egyptian Divinities, the All Who Are One. This is also a good book to be able to tap into the metaphysics as well. But let's go into the preview, so it gives us a preface. It should give us that here, I think. So we can read and tell you what that one is about, the All Who Are One. This one goes deeper into the actual sciences and the different deities that are mentioned in ancient Kemet. And hold up, let me open this up. Yeah, this is a short preface, but it's still good to go into it. And he tell you here in the preface, it says, the most common knowledge about ancient Egyptian divinities come to us as a result of interpretation by Western academic Egyptologists. Now you know what to call them. It says of the ancient Egyptian texts, we got many of our people that have been placed under the sway of these Western academic Egyptologists. A pseudo-Egyptologist, Pseudo-Ptolemaics, I like to call them. It says their interpretations are constrained, and this is real talk. Their interpretations are constrained. I'm going to say that one more time. Their interpretations are constrained by their Western and Judeo-Christian paradigms. As a result, they report a confused religious system with a great number of so-called gods. Academic Egyptologists, while worshiping everything Greek or Roman, totally ignore the eyewitness accounts of Herodotus, Plutarch, Plato, Diodorus, and other historians who reported about the ancient Egyptian traditions, who were much closer to the scene than the further removed Western academic Egyptologists. This book avoids the paradigms and cleans up the confusion and explains the meaning over 80 of the most frequently encountered divinities, the All Who Are One. So get your hands on this, because this would also help you understand METU, as it relates to reading the book of creation. He breaks all of this stuff down. Even in the context, with putting it out there, what is actually being taught. And he couldn't explain it even better, from the way that we deal with it. Let's see if it says it here. Yeah, he got a lot of stuff in here, family. He would tell you that they were practicing the ancient Egyptian teachings on the thin layer of Islam, which is the exact description of what we demonstrate. So yeah, check this book out as well, family, by Mustafa Gaddala. These are books that'll get you started. And one last one that I actually received, and they had a full PDF on this one. It's called Give me a second here. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, they got a preview in here. This is the Egyptian cosmology. Let me see. They didn't give the picture here, but we can go up here, and I know they probably got one here. So yes, this is the cover. You know, look like he got a second edition up here. Definitely probably have to invest in that, because I think I had a first edition. No, I actually had a third edition. So actually, I'm a step ahead then. So I'm cool. So let me go back over here. Preview. Let's see what the preface, because he should have a preface up here too, I think. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. Let's see here. In the preface, he tell you what it is. Almost all Egyptologists interpret and continue to interpret the ancient Egyptian writings and other modes of expression, art, architecture, etc., without trying to understand the thoughts and belief expressed in them. Their explanations continue to be shallow, which reflects their preconceived notions of the ancient Egyptians as being primitive and inferior to modern Western world. About a half a century ago, Alexander Pankov summed up the deteriorated status of Egyptologists in the following statements from his book, Tomb of Ramesses, the 6th, 1954. For the early Egyptologists, this religion was highly mysterious and mystical. They saw it with the eyes of a Father Kircher, and that Kircher is one of their scholars. Meaning they were looking at the Egyptian teachings through the eyes of Western academia. Then came a sudden reaction. Scholars lost all interest in religion as such and viewed the religious text merely as a source material for their theological and historical research. Under the sway of the higher criticism, the texts were decomposed and their genesis eagerly studied. The intrinsic value of religious composition and thought was systematically ignored and consequently temporarily lost. Egyptian scholars since Champollion saw in the oldest religious law of humanity mainly a collection of distorted historical data out of which he endeavored all his life to reconstruct the history of ancient Egypt. I share with Pankov in his assessment of the present and future state of Egyptologists. We are now at the beginning of a new era, one in which the necessity of fusion of a synthesis of the mystical and the historical approach is being felt. Moreover, with the appearance of psychoanalytic studies, the Egyptian religious symbols have suddenly acquired a new and intimate meaning. At the present stage, an attempt to render the pregnant religious writings of Egypt in the modern language still remains a bold undertaking. It is worth the while to try. Many conflicting sides who used ancient Egypt to promote each own's agenda insist that the ancient religion and the traditions have died. The truth is they never died, and they continue to survive within the silent majority of the Baladi people of Egypt, even though the loud minority of the Afrangi, meaning foreign-like Egyptians, dominate the spotlight. The Baladi Egyptians continue to maintain their ancestral traditions. This is like when we talk about the Al-Bidan, which is the white, so-called white Moors, and then the Al-Haritin, which is what they call the black Moors. You have this same dynamic in Egypt, the indigenous Egyptians, and then these old foreign-born Egyptians that's trying to claim being Kemetic. It says, I sincerely hope this book will prompt many people, not just archaeologists or academians, to listen and learn from the treasure of knowledge embedded in the Baladi Egyptian traditions. It says, we then must reread and re-examine ancient Egyptian writings with an open mind. That's the problem that these cats is having. They don't want to deal with it from an open mind standpoint. They want to believe the mind of Gardenia, the mind of Adolf Ehrman, the mind of E.A.R.S. Petrie. and all them, they believe and they worshiping at the shrine of the European, and then trying to act like they at the shrine, you know, of the ancestors. Say this is an investment in our own future. For Egypt is the ancient future, whereas per Hermetic text, Asclepius the third, the whole cosmos dwells in Egypt as in its sanctuary, Mustafa Gadala. So that's the preface on that book. So these are books and he also got some dealing with the metaphysical architecture of Egypt as well, you know, where he get into that. So all of that is covered, you know, in, you know, all of this stuff. Islamism, the first signs and symbols were designed and used by the ancient Moabites, so-called modern man, assuming the title of God, describes the Moorish ancient way of life as paganistic and heathenism. That's what the Europeans do. They worship many gods. However, upon investigation, we can see no civilization existed unless they use some aspect of the modern European Hebrew version of this paganistic idol worshiping stew. You know, then he go into astronomy, be a part of Islamism, which I touched on in some of the works of Mustafa Gadala. You know, it goes into that, you know, the movements, Islam and navigation, you know, Islamism dealing with the zodiac. And a lot of that you can find also in those works. You can also find some information in the celestial ship of the north. You know, in architecture of Islam, we was just mentioning that. You know, you can find all that stuff in there. You know, in the celestial ship of the north is E. Valentia Straighten. Let's see. And they actually have, this is an old book. It come from like 1927. This is around the time when our prophet was on the manifest. This particular book here is a book that goes into it goes into a grand degree of unfoldment, family, as far as when it comes to dealing with explaining the houses, you know, of the world of the little animals, so to speak, or what they like to call zodiac, we call Dendra. You know, and this is a very powerful book because it shows you about the celestial Kemet and the heavens and all of that. You know, in the foreword, it says this. It says, age after age, the great architect of the universe has sent his messengers in many lands. We just was talking about that ancient Kemet. All those who came from it, the rays of the Atlantis shining on many. The sun shines on the, you know, all nations. Say age after age. The great architect of the universe has sent his messengers in many lands to make plain to man that the laws under which life, spiritual and temporal, evolves have been the same from the foundation of the world, and are but the reactions of the planet Earth to the stimuli of the moon, stars, and suns and super suns of the heavens. And amongst these, the mighty ruler, ship of the north, was ever preeminent in his primal energizing. It says the relation between the heavens and the earth has been the same fundamentally in all ages. Out of knowledge of this ancient bond has been born, it says, the only true religion of binding back to causation. See, that's the true definition of the word religion. It means to bind back, you see, to the original source. It says heavenly forces play upon earth and visibly impress their operative laws. The sun governs the earth motion. The moon sways the earth's tides. The pole star exerts a law-giving orbit directing the influence upon the earth's polar axis. And the signs of the zodiac through which the sun takes his royal course year after year, and one of which the earth dwells every age, being at present in the Pisces and proceeding thence into Aquarius. It says, we're called the living creatures. It says, because of their lively, magisterial modification of forces playing through the sun upon the earth. Of all other celestial governors of the earth were known, and their forces differentiated in reverence. Reverence in its highest essence is an eternal and non-personal attribute of the soul, and withers slowly but fatally in the face of the reiterated assertion of a personal exegetic dogma divorced from nature's laws. To continue in spiritual growth, man must worship his maker alone, the first cause, of which all other causes are but relegations and emanations. Astrology and astronomy, esoteric and exoteric knowledge of the heavenly bodies or entities have lain at the generating and heart of every great religion. It says that has waxed and waned upon the earth in accordance with the cyclic celestial law. Out of the past, the author has brought pathfinding clues to this first cause, which reveals itself. These pages are a contribution to that painstaking scientific selfless research, which shall in coming years identify behind the allegory, symbology, and ritual of many faiths the same everlasting truth which perceive will unite all races and creeds in reverence of the It says the creature for creator. It says also the one eternal religion are binding back to causation. Every one of these stars that are in heaven do not make like or equal the course. It says who is half prescribed unto every one the manner and the greatness of their course. This bear and turns round about its own self and carries the whole world with her, who possessed and made such an instrument, who have set the bounds of the sea, who have established the earth. But there is somebody, Otat, is the maker and Lord of these things. It says, for it is impossible, O son, that either place or number or measure should be observed without a maker. For no order can be made by disorder or disruption. So you can tell that this is definitely against atheism, and this is definitely dealing with intelligent design. And they was quoting Hermes Trismegistus, whom our scribes went over in their measure. So all this that's being said here is the same thing that our chairman said over here. Islamism is the zodiacs. Ancient ones' recognition of divine coordinates between planets and timetable of manifest destiny of man with other forms. These coordinates are the spiritual and astral bonds with design orbital effects upon other living cycles, past, present, and future. Time events are divided into thought houses called zodiac. These houses are life cycles. Still, these houses are preceded by the suffix zo, which implies the animal kingdom, e.g. zoo. It says the word zodiac means the world of little animals because each of the 12 houses is represented by a symbol reflective of the characteristic of their special house. The ancient Moors were able to reason early in the life of man, all life evolves in cycle of fruition. True astrology is the living of manifest destiny and the consciousness of man's deific life. Man was created perfect. He came from a perfect source. He therefore is a perfect being, and to perfection he must return. See there, returning to the source, binding back to original causation. This is the true purpose for the zodiac. Who would know this better than the ancient Canaanites? They later inhabited the Terrymathian kingdoms of the Upper Nile. It says, whom first designed the zodiac as a celestial calendar to measure their cycle growth. Mingsti the elder, the wise man from China, once told Yehoshua, all things are thought, and all life is thought activity. The multitude of beings are but phases of the one great thought made manifest. Lo, the great God is thought, and thought is the great God. Thought. Tehude. Divine mind. So yeah, family. I just wanted to show you that, and that's the reason why I chose the celestial ship of the north, because it covers a grand degree of unfoldment. A lot of this stuff is also the teachings that's in our circle 7, and they give homage to the Kemet above the earth. It talk about the circle of the 7 in here, the scimitar and the star. That's the celestial ship of the north. The celestial ship of the north is really, that north point where the scimitar is rotating around the star. So this whole book here, see, like they was talking about Mount Meru, the gods must have been the paradise of Muhammad. This is a powerful book here. So the Garden of Eden also represent the scimitar and the star. Remember, say the cherubim was placed in the garden and he turned each way. You know, all that's symbolic to what they call the mouth of God, or the Kafesh, you know, the constellation of Musketi. Talking about the 7 stars. That's why I chose this book, because it thoroughly is connected to our sciences. There's many books out there written about this stuff, but this is one of the best that has ever been written if you want to get into understanding how, you know, those particular measures relate, you know, and also connect to our sciences at the same time. You know, once you understand it from this standpoint, all the other stuff will just be commentary added on to a lot of this stuff. It talk about the 4 quadrants. You know, it got a nice little small little glossary. It ain't, I don't see it in this one, but you get the book. Some of them do. Some of the downloads have the actual glossary in it. You know, but yeah, this is a powerful book, family. You want to know, you know, as it is above, so it is below, as it is within, so it is without. You know, the circle, and it's in there, family. It's there. Signs and symbols. So you have to know these things in order to understand properly how to demonstrate METU Neter. Now, outside of these particular texts here, you know, other measures relative as far as certain teachers that I would recommend, you know, if you want to go deeper into the metaphysics, you know, also the mathematics and the science, is most definitely the works of our family, Ra Unefer Amen, who wrote the book METU Neter. And he got a couple of volumes of it. I still got to buy a couple of volumes myself. Let's see. Some of you may already have the book, but if you don't, we're going to show it to you. It's this one right here. This is one of them, but it's a whole lot more, family. You know, this is one of them. I see they got a new, look like a new cover to it too. Let's see here. Let me see if they have a preview. They may or they may not. But this is the original. This is the original page right here. They may even have a PDF download of this, because I know they had one in the past. You know, but this is the work of METU Neter, and this goes into it from the standpoint of gematria, you know, the Egyptian Kabbalah and all of that right there. You know, even the Hermetic Kabbalah, you know, it talks about the Canaanites in this particular work as well. So this goes into the spiritual breakdown. And they talking about METU Neter, they going into the actual metaphysics of this demonstration. This is very powerful work. Get all the volumes if you can, you know, here and there. You know, I got volume 1 and volume 2. I ain't bought the other ones yet, you know, and so those are good works to have. You know, some people already have them, you know, but they're good. These goes into they go into the metaphysics. And another one here, last but not least, in works, here's another one here. Let me do this here. Let's see. Okay. This is actually the work of our brother Kaba Kameni right here. And I got this in my hand. Let me see if they have a preface in here. Well, they go in here, and it's a lot of metaphysics in this, family. That's a lot of metaphysics in this drawing here. So get this, because he's dealing with the, you know, the African theory on the origin and continuing development of the universe, the cosmic universe. But this brother definitely go in this work right here. You know what I mean? So check this work out. It's going to help you metaphysically. You know, he get into panspermia and everything. He'll also tell you that the real Kemetic language dealt more with people, places, and things, you know, instead of alphabets and letters as well. You know, so get this work as well, and definitely support the brother. And also, last but not least, since it's right there, brother Muata Ashby, his works. To be honest with you, one shouldn't even go into the works of these brothers here until they have a good foundation, you know, so to speak, you know, because You know, this is high science that these brothers. I give honors the more to Ashby because he always paid homage in some of his works to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You know, but this is dealing with the life of ancient Egyptian metaphysics and cosmology for our consciousness. You know, once you understand that, and you see he got the Kemetic Kabbalah here as well, the Tree of Life. You know, which some people would call him pseudo for that, but the original Tree of Life came from Kemet. So you can tell when people don't know. You know, so yeah, he got a lot of his stuff in PDF form as well. So them the people that I would say deal with their works. You see what I'm saying? And there's other ones out there, but them the main ones that will give you a firm foundation, you know, and all of it connect and tie right into our Book of Fire. Like I was showing you. A lot of their work tie into this same stuff. Some of the works, you know, are mentioned in the Book of Fire, whether one know it or not, or some of these brothers. You know, so that's a powerful demonstration. So what I want to do at this particular time is we're going to go and open up the flow to the scribes, because I just wanted to bring these things forth, you know, and give our people some source materials to be able to elevate their consciousness in these areas. So praise be to Allah, Islamism without the schism. And let me do this here. There we go. So, all right. We're going to open up the floor first for our Grand National Secretary of the State, Sister Shepsu Rakat Ma'at and Pooh to the Common Bay. Islam, Goddess and Queen.
Islam, gratitude.
Gratitude, peace and love.
Peace and love. This is having already risen, giving praise and honor where due. Much gratitude and honor to you, Dr. Shahi, for bringing forth this powerful class. Also to our scribes. I really enjoyed us reading from the Book of Fire in reference to the portion that was brought forth dealing with our history and being able to make it plain. And also much gratitude for giving us source materials and the reason why we need to study this. When we look at, there was dealing with Mustafa Gondola, because in going through some of his books, it definitely, for me, made it very plain, remove some more veils. And this is dealing with the history of our ancient forefathers, you know, and pulling the falsehoods away, letting one know that basically what one had been founded on is based upon the what's the word of the Europeans that had a slant in reference to the same thing that we see today, trying to keep us buried in that shallow grave, in that coffin, you know, so that they don't want us to know what our history is. Let us continue following on, dealing with their demonstration, which keeps us separated from our Creator and also our people. When we look at that saying in reference to religion, traditions, even the language was considered dead and still considered dead. And the question always arises within my soul, who are you to state a language is dead or not? And so this is what gives me joy being here in these special classes, that it's up to us to make a stand, to go back, do the research, just as that's the only way that we're going to know about the truth. We have various guidelines, we've got various source materials, and we have prophets that had left the truth for us. But we've got to be able to look at it from a universal level. And when you stand upon the thing that all things came out of Kemet, and you have different source materials speaking about that one universal language, and then you have various nations taking a portion and making it applicable to their people. Now that makes sense. You can see that, but you can also see the remix, the things that were deliberately destroyed, so they say, etched their own name and symbolism into it, as far as Greek and Roman is concerned, and trying to make it applicable to our special people. So it's time in this new era of time for us to recognize and identify our true history, not somebody else's his story. So I'm looking forward to being able to go back into these special books and receive even higher revelations. So gratitude more. This class is definitely key because it brings us to the foundation of being able to study the self and our creator as well. So gratitude more for calling me forth. Much peace and love to all of my Moorish kin. Dr. Shahid, if you're speaking, we can't hear you more.
Oh, I'm just talking away over here, giving honors to you for what you brought forth, you know, and all that you will bring forth, scribers. I want to give honors to all it is that the chairman has done and laying the foundation and also being the great teacher that he is. You know, we can't thank him enough. Speaking of our chairman, let us call him forth. Is he present?
Not at this time, Dr. Shahid. Gratitude.
Well, all is well. All is well. Well, all right. Gratitude for that measure, God, woman. And man, ooh-wee. Well, all right. Let us call upon our scribes. You know, which one of y'all want to come first?
Islam.
Islamism without the schism. What's
Gratitude.
going on with your brother Marvin Edwards Bay?
Oh man, truth. Pounds. Oh, and gratitude for your measure, you know what I mean? Your truth, you know, your perceptions in depth, understanding of what happened to us in our language, which is, you know what I mean? The language tells everything about a people. You know what I mean? Its history, its legacy, its ancestors. You know what I mean? That which they hold dear to them. All that has been taken from us. And this is, you know what I mean, what we, like you said, we are the ones that's embarking upon this mission. And it is a mission because it ain't going to, you know what I mean? It's not going to change unless we make a change. You know what I mean? And I'm just so grateful for being here, being a part of this. You know what I mean? Being a part of this Moorish American government because we are the ones that's bringing the truth to the world. You know what I mean? But we're going to start out with our people, first of all, first and foremost, because they're going to have to get in here with us because there's so much has been done. I mean, to look at it, you know what I mean? You kind of understand, we don't condone it, but we can kind of understand how, like, it can seem daunting as our brother, our Vice Consul General of Michigan brought on the manifest in one of his classes, you know, of the magnitude of the deception, you know, and it's these later Egyptologists, so-called Egyptologists, you know what I mean, pushing the narrative, you know, that they invented everything. They didn't. They deceived everyone, you know, but we're bringing on the truth and we're bringing on, you know, even supplying our brothers and sisters that's listening in different tools that they can use so that they can get in with us. You know what I mean? Because we're going to need all hands on deck. You know what I mean? And it's going to be done because Allah is leading on and victory is sure. You know, and it's real. It's nothing, say no phantom forms here. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the reality of it. You know what I mean? The truth. You know, this is what I've always been, say, a follower of the truth. And I was led to my Moorish American government. And here we are. I mean, you covered a lot. You went into, you know, all the different books, you know, I mean, all the different source material, you know, giving us a outline of, you know, what those that's in the same, say, mission with us, you know, come from different points of view, so to speak, you know. I mean, it's just, I mean, so beautiful, I tell you, to be a part of this divine and national movement. Because this is what it is. This is a divine and national movement, you know. And I can't give enough honors God, man, for your due diligence, because that's what it takes. We can't change anything, what I mean, in a scanty way, doing the research, because, they flipped everything upside down and backwards, so we have to be steadfast, what I mean? We have to go within self, what I mean, where the true treasures lie, and once our people recognize this, then they can go within themselves and we can come together as one. And I believe you mentioned that book, The All That Is One. Yeah, we are one. And I'm going to just say gratitude, God, man, for allowing me to speak. His love and peace. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. And gratitude for the measure brought forth from the treasures, brother. Peace and love. Yes, sir. All right. Grand man.
Islam. What's crazy is I knew you probably knew who he was, but I never heard you bring him up until now. But Ashar Kwesi, because he was that was one of the guys I used to watch a lot of, and because he was going through and saying what this is and what that is, taking people on a trip and giving them some historic he was giving some historic truths, but yet he still wasn't really deciphering the metanator, or the hieroglyphs or pictoglyphs, and so one of the things that that kind of irritates me about this whole illusion that Champollion has created is that he has the world literally, as the chairman say, you on the right track, heading in the wrong direction, because you're trying to teach something that you can't perceive yourself. So how are you really teaching, and what are you really giving? You created a database for pictures, and really you're throwing people all the way off, and there has to be to me a more sinister reason why you're trying to throw people off, because maybe they knew of some vital material that's in there that they didn't want people to get. So here, let me take this, throw you off this way, and while you're busy doing that, we are doing this over here. And so it's crazy that and it shows the level of deception that has been geared to our people, for a multitude of years, hundreds. I would say about at least 200-300, maybe even 400, 500 years with this deception of what people think they know about the hieroglyphs. Even that dude, that Egyptian, but I can't recall his name. He's one of the major ones that National Geographic go to when it comes to anything that has to do with Egypt. When he tried to say that they weren't of dark skin origin, and he was very upset when they found out that they was of dark skin origin. So it just shows that this is a global attack. You know what I'm saying, to keep us away from the greatness that we truly are. And so, I'm glad that we are here in this time, picking up the pieces and putting everything back how it's supposed to be, because if we wasn't, who knows how long it would have been. Who knows how long it would have been before academia would have got the truth. So that I'll leave as a common piece as long.
In Islam, brother, I think that's Zawai Hawass is what they call that dude out there talking that noise.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, but yeah, they, They're just trying to put the light out, but you said it best. It's a distraction. They don't want you to really know, what's really going on. They don't want our people to wake up, but with us here, they can't hold the truth back from them. They're going to wake up. So, yeah, we just say gratitude, for all that our scribes are doing. We'll be going into the hieratic again in our next sessions. And we look forward to the assignment that we'll deal with on this, to give our people some more clarity, before we make that vibration and the change and shift. So we just say gratitude in Islamism without the schism. And at this time, we can actually bring this demonstration to a closure, and go in the third heaven with it. So if you will, Brother Bati Bey, you can do the honors in closing us out. Islam? Islam, Brother Bati Bey, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Islam. I was getting ready. Islam.
Okay, gratitude, Islam.
Islam. January 15th, 1929. A warning from the Prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We offer peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans, causing confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequences. We offer love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice then must take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings towards the government or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in the car button, cease wearing the turban of fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the Prophet is not right, the government is not right. The Prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They must do their part in protecting the Prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We'll do recitation of that. We will go to our Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Therefore, Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you, the love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all, and your love to each other. Peace. Islam.
Great class.
Great class. Gratitude, scribes, family online.
Gratitude.
Great class, Dr. Shaheed.
Islamism without the schism, more.
That's right.
Great.
Praise be to Allah. We give honors to you. Oh yeah. We prophets say he shut up all the little rat holes and crevices.
I know that's right.
Yes, sir. Can't run now. Where you running to?
Nowhere to run to.
Islam.
Wait till we get even further in dealing with those medical demonstrations. You know,
Oh,
how to
yeah.
heal. Woo!
Oh yeah, we finna start going deep into a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Islamism without the schism.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Peace
We
and
want to
love.
give honors, peace and love. Want to give honors to our scribes as well, you know, and also the people who checked in from social media. You know, Barn Dog, Thad D. Honors to you. Who it is? The Native Bosco, Sister Curta Bay. We give honors to you. Tarif Bay, Marquise. You know, y'all keep tuning in. The best is yet to come. Tarif Bay, we give honors to all of y'all. So peace and love. Until the next time, Uncle Ajet Sanel, life, health, and prosperity be upon you all. Islam.
Praise the Lord.